When this boy shows up to duel one of Eldragon Academy's top students without even bringing a weapon, everyone thinks he's completely insane. After all, his opponent is Laika, an overpowered sword prodigy who's famous throughout the academy. Most students are already convinced he's about to get crushed, but Zeke? He just laughs, because he knows she's nowhere near his level. The duel begins, and Laika attacks instantly, coming down with a powerful strike from above. Zeke dodges it effortlessly. She immediately follows up with a wide slash, but again, nothing. No matter how hard she tries, she can't even touch him. Meanwhile, Zeke casually avoids every attack while joking around like he's playing with a child. Now the entire arena is stunned by his speed. Laika, getting more and more frustrated, snaps at him to stop talking and actually focus on the fight. So Zeke finally decides to end it. In an instant, he moves so fast that Laika can barely process what happened. One punch. That's all it takes to knock her to the ground. She struggles back to her feet, completely shaken. She can't understand it. How did she fail to land even a single hit while he overwhelmed her so easily? And Zeke calmly tells her the truth. No matter how hard she tries, they're simply on completely different levels. But while he's casually talking, Laika suddenly goes for a sneak attack. Unfortunately for her, Zeke effortlessly deflects it and instantly counters, sending her flying straight into the wall. The entire crowd falls silent. Most of the students can't believe what they just witnessed. They never imagined Lady Laika could lose to anyone in the academy. And now everyone's thinking the same thing. Who the hell is this boy? What they don't know is that this boy is the reborn strongest man on Earth, the very founder of the Eldragon family. Even he eventually died when his time came, but that wasn't the end. He opens his eyes in his new body, the body of a baby. The fact shocks him that he is a baby. There were other babies present as well. From his observations, he deduces that he must have been reborn into the Eldragon family once again, as they are all housed in a separate building. Just then, there comes the Eldragon maids with a trolley with a strange red liquid. Among them is a goblin, whose presence immediately raised the hero's suspicion. The maids first forcefully feed the goblin that liquid, causing the creature astronomical pain before it explodes into a bloody mess. This test shows that the concentration of magic in the liquid is high enough, a perfect sweet spot. The maids promptly start feeding that diluted strange red liquid to everyone. The hero couldn't really understand the situation, and as his turn comes, he realizes that the liquid isn't milk, but it's something overflowing with a terrifying magic power. This is ancient dragon's blood, and they are making them drink it. Instinctively, he needs to spit it out, and he already swallowed a little. As the other babies are doing, he needs to do the same and spit the liquid out before he explodes. But he again thinks about his choice, and decides to absorb all this magic power which will help him reach the true peak of martial arts. He might even surprise his past self. With that in mind, he drinks all the liquid, claiming that they should never have underestimated Gilfus Eldragon. He absorbs all of the ancient dragon's true source power in order to reach the peak of martial arts, a height he could never attain in his previous life. The maids are surprised that he is able to absorb the liquid so calmly, but they choose to ignore it since the result works in their favor. The other babies seem to survive as well, but this instant is nothing to take lightly. As expected of an infant's body, overwhelming sleepiness suddenly struck him. 7 years later, the child once known as Gilfus is now renamed Zeke Eldragon. He trains relentlessly, and he can clearly feel how magnificent his body has become. This is all thanks to the blood of the ancient dragons flowing within him. The source of this power exists in all living beings, but the ancient dragon blood that Zeke and the other babies consumed contains vast quantities of two distinct source powers. Those who absorb even a small amount of this liquid gain bodies far superior to ordinary humans. Unfortunately, which works in his favor. The hero, who is guided by the divine dragons to source power he had absorbed in his previous life, took in every drop of that ancient dragon's unique power. He undergoes a transformation so astonishing that even he finds it difficult to believe. By all logic, he should have reached at least 4 stars by now. A star is a truly compressed source of power, formed when one imagines their body as a universe, and allows a star to float within it. However, each additional star becomes increasingly difficult to form, and the more stars one possesses, the greater their strength. The hero has reached the unmatched rank of 10 stars, with the only one in the world to ever do so. It has been 7 years since he was reborn. His mother has already passed away, and his father never showed up. Being reborn thousands of years into the future shocks him, but what irks him more is the reality of this era. A millennium later, the world has become a place where the strong devour the weak. Well, isn't that 2025 in a nutshell? The clearest example of this is the dragon's trial ritual. Only the babies who survive are allowed to train as warriors of the Eldragon family. Throughout these years, not a single obstacle has been able to stand in the hero's way. Zeke tries to investigate the combat training in his family, but the maids have nothing to say, more like they aren't allowed to say. The maid he interacts with is a 3-star fighter, which is enough for basic combat training. He feels exhausted having this bear interaction even after living together for 7 years. Later, he goes towards the forest and eats the poisonous herbs as a part of his training. He first senses the presence of someone and notices an angry boar with a black mist around it, which didn't exist 1,000 years ago. Soon enough, they get into a fight and he slams the board with a powerful punch. The damage seems surprising from someone at his level, 1 star, but the quality of a star is what really matters. The hero takes his leave with a boar and decides to go on a journey. Unbeknownst to him, a strange man has been hiding nearby. He witnesses the fight and immediately realizes that Zeke is no ordinary child. Not only does Zeke defeat the boar with ease, but he also notices the man's presence. However, as the child of the family head, Zeke is not permitted to leave freely and remains under constant surveillance. The stranger grows interested in him. Later, the hero overhears a group of warriors discussing something. He enters the room asking for their interest, to which they explain that they have come to retrieve Zeke, and he needs to take an examination, which makes the hero furious. He thought he was returned to the main family, but they take him to the dragon's nest for the examination. This is the Eldragon family's own exclusive educational institution that they established during that millennium. Everyone has to enroll in this academy at the age of 7, who has been born into this family. And today is the day of the entrance examination, and the hero hasn't been taught a single thing. The hero holds his head, knowing the test is mandatory. Zeke appears visibly exhausted, prompting a child named Langus from Oldscale Village to interrupt and speak to him. Zeke finds Langus timid at first, but he quickly realizes that the boy possesses courage beneath his nervous exterior. Zeke introduces himself in return. As the hero explains his worry towards the exam as he doesn't know what would be the content, Langus is thrown off. Before the conversation can continue, Retin from Oldscale Village calls out to Langus and begins bullying him. He shouts mockingly, telling Langus that he should have stayed at home because someone like him could never enter the academy, since his father was nothing more than a mock dragon. The Eldragon family follows a rigid hierarchy established by an absolute manager. Lesser dragons are classified as rookies, young dragons are known as common soldiers, adult dragons belong to the captain class, and elder dragons occupy the highest ranks as elders or executives. At the very bottom are the mock dragons, those who failed to enter the dragon's nest, or could not graduate. These individuals are labeled as imitations, but Langus wants to remove the tack of a mock dragon from his family. The hero speaks in favor of his friend that he at least deserves a chance to try. It makes the bullies even furious, and they start bad-mouthing about the poor being, but Zeke continues to defend his new friend. Soon enough, the adult dragon examiner announces that the exam will now begin, in which all applicants must take a number tag after registration and proceed to the second gate in discipline. Langus suggests the hero withdraw if he is not sure about the exam or lacks the ability, but he seems to be confident, even though he doesn't know the content of the exam. The first test is to scratch the rock, and the one who manages to do so will pass the test. Only provided weapons can be used, or the individuals can go with bare hands. The students have 3 attempts. Zeke finds the test way too lenient, which shocks his friend because he thought the exam would be of a terrifying level. The test begins, and Langus starts panicking while our boy is sitting calm. The stone used in the test possesses regenerative properties, allowing it to repair any minor damage almost instantly. Furthermore, any attack driven purely by brute force is reflected back with hundreds of times the original impact. Langus explains that one must properly circulate ether source power within the body during the strike in order to leave a scratch. The hero understands that this quality is more of the handling of ether source power than martial skills. Most of the students seem like they can pass the exam, including the bullies. There are consecutive disqualifications of the students going on. Finally, it's time to test the hero, and he refuses to take any weapon. They ask the hero if he's sure going with his bare hands, to which he agrees. Everyone starts discussing him, thinking he will eventually fail the test while Langus is concerned about him. As the test began, the hero carefully analyzed the stone. He realized that the rock must have formed over 1,000 years ago, as he had never encountered such a mineral before. Just then, he raises his fist, and using his full power he smashes this regeneration stone with his Dragonslayer combat technique form and passes the exam. The crowd suddenly got silenced as the results were unexpected for them. Langus is filled with pure joy along with surprise. Standing nearby, the examiner narrowed his eyes, wondering if the hero might be an illegitimate child of a powerful house. After all, only warriors of 4- or 5-star rank were capable of such a feat. As a reward, the hero was handed a green potion, though he was uncertain of its significance. Later, Langus explains to him that he got a healing portion of a normal grade. Zeke wonders if this could be elixir, a potion made from extremely rare materials. It contains unique herbs with pure elixir core and from divine and phantom beasts who are so rare to find. The potion healed both old injuries and recent wounds while dramatically boosting one's ether. Due to its scarce ingredients, it was incredibly difficult to refine and almost never appeared on the market. Langus added that the potions produced by House Dragon far surpassed those sold in ordinary stores. The hero feels astonishing while his friend keeps on praising him. With that, the bullies also passed the exam, and it's Langus's turn. He chose to scratch the rock with a sword and failed to do so. It's his last attempt, and the bullies are already starting to abuse him, mentioning how it is very expected from a half-dragon. Zeke then advises him to use a spear instead of a sword, which doesn't suit him because he is struggling to make a single dent with it. Everyone is laughing at him for being this weak, but the hero saves his friend by making him switch his weapon to spear. Langus's father was never allowed to enter Dragon's Nest, and they even make fun calling him a half-dragon. But he never gave up and raised him, so now he wants to prove everyone wrong. But he is not sure about how to use the spear correctly. Zeke advises him to trust it straight without thinking too hard. It is impossible for someone to trust the spear straight and damage our Generation Stone who is holding a spear for the first time, but he should not judge himself without even trying. They both just met today, but since the hero believes Langus to his fullest, then he also wants to do so. Without wasting any second further thrust the spear straight into the stone and feels like it was part of his body from the start. To their surprise, he not only scratched the stone but pierced it through. Zeke is very impressed and cheering high for him. And this is how he passed the exam, which he couldn't even believe in himself. The tears of happiness fall down his face while the bullies are all tense. With this, the test is over and the entrance ceremony begins. Zeke wonders if there was only one test, but his friend explains that there might be another after their entrance. The head of the Eldragon family enters to give them their congratulatory words. Zeke comments on the head's gloomy face while Langus is trying to make him quiet. There Zeke meets the Eldragon family's current forces with quite a few 6-star levels among them, which seems like a decent force. Balza Eldragon is the head of the family, which looks like on an 8-star level. This start level was barely a dozen in the whole world back 1,000 years ago. Zeke seems to have a hatred against his own father. There comes the words from the Lord Balza, suggesting to become the flesh and blood of Eldragon. His aura is so powerful that the students rarely manage to breathe. Everyone is crushed by his strong pressure. The hero realizes that he couldn't stand him. Just then, an elderly dragon praises the Lord's gracious words, claiming that these are all just a matter of wording, while everyone is feeling relief by changing the atmosphere. Soon enough, one of the warriors informed them that the dormitory assignments will now be announced, and those who are called should move at once. Zeke is curious if they are not going to the same place, on which his friend explained that there are 4 dorms in the Dragon's Nest. Students who are allowed into the building are assigned to one of the 4 dorms: East, West, North, and South. Zeke has assigned the East dorm of the Dragon's Nest. He roams inside the dorm struggling to find his room, and finally reaches and presents a warm greeting to his roommate. Surprisingly, he has Lingxi as his new roommate, and they both seem happy. Zeke seems to have no plans for today, and his friend informs him that the training will start by tomorrow. Because the hero didn't know about it and was not paying attention to the announcements, his friend scolds him. The hero was planning to ditch this boring place and go on a trip, but the regeneration is stone, the healing portion and alert. My interesting things came across his way, so now sticking with Eldragon House for a little longer doesn't sound bad to him. 1 month has passed now. There is a training session going on which helps in teaching the dragon's breath, and this method is made by the 15th head of House Eldragon. Some of the students have already mastered this technique, like Lady Laika, who seems to look like a 2nd star. Then there is Zeke with his extraordinary skills and 0 teachings, which make the trainer wonder if he inherited the head's powers. The Dragon King's breath technique of the hero was modified and passed down as Dragon's Breath. These techniques are ways to drag ether from the air into a body and calculate it, which can help in enhancing one's ether. How well they work is influenced by the user's skills, and this is the reason each noble house refine its own style and guard the finished techniques. But if this technique only works while standing still, it is useless for the hero because his previous Dragon King's breath technique let him use ether while moving without breaking breath, and its effects are huge. But since it is the difficult one, so a few inherited it. The hero simplified it so anyone could use it to make their clan stronger, but he never thought it would evolve and survive even after his reincarnation. Later, during the dinner, Zeke suggests Langus to eat, or else he won't get stronger because he is weak and he needs to train harder. While he was thinking about how some of them are well trained, Laika interrupts the hero, mentioning that he was amazing earlier. Langus gets super nervous and informs him that she is the head's daughter. Being truly unbothered, our boy mentions that he is also the head's son. He keeps ignorantly answering her questions while advising Langus to eat food rather than spacing out. This makes her excited, and she offers him to become her subordinate, because being an illegitimate child, he needs allies. She wants him to help her become the next head, and in return she will reward him generously, but calmly refuses the offer. Even when she tries to bribe him with the head's potions, he rejects. Laika can project her ether outside her body, which is pretty impressive to achieve at her age. He aggressively informed Laika that he has no interest in being the head, and will not serve anyone because he's the strongest. Laika offers him a fight, and everyone reaches the training ground to witness the fight. Zeke realizes that things turned out to be serious, while Langus informs him that she's not only Lord Balza's daughter, but also has Typhona blood, one of the 4 great houses backing Eldragon. Like other kids, she is a genius, and just 7 she mastered every form of her house. Unfortunately, this is new to the hero because he only knew her as the head's daughter. But still, he seems confident, and not knowing things make him even more excited, even though his friend keeps on insisting that he doesn't stand a chance in front of Lady Laika. Both the fighters are more than ready. Zeke asks her the reason for which she is forcing on fighting him. It is because she wants to be the next head by defeating him, and claim the seat to make him serve under her. When the hero seems clueless about his own family, Laika asks him if it, because he is illegitimate, and explains that including her, there are 5 heirs competing for the next head. Everyone carries blood from one of the 4 great houses of Eldragon except him, and in order to secure her place, she wants to defeat him right away. With that, she swings her massive sword like it's nothing, but the hero effortlessly dodges the attack. Her strikes just keep getting faster, and everyone understands that this is what it means to be a child of the head. Laika keeps throwing her attack while Zeke is continuously dodging them without pulling any effort. Langus is also surprised. The hero praises her unexpected fighting styles, but she insists him to keep on fighting. He does it accordingly and throws a punch, taking her down, wondering why she can't manage to land a single hit on him, to which the hero confirmed that she is far quicker than most of the 1-stars he have ever met. But in the end, she is still just a 1-star. He further explains how he observed her breaths, the twitch of her muscles and the shape of her eyes to track her movements, and the rest is just experience. Laika isn't ready to give up and again strikes him, but instead ends up getting slammed. He is impressed how she gathered true source power in her core to withstand that blow. When Langus tries to interrupt, Zeke suggests he should stay back. Just then, that lady reaches 2-star levels, which seems obvious by her aura. At this level, one can project through source power outside the body, shaped for martial arts, and that projection is called aura. According to her, it is the hero who helped her break through to 2-star level, so now he doesn't stand a chance. With that, she throws up a fast and powerful hit, which eventually the hero couldn't manage to dodge completely. Now the hero is facing a different style of true Thunder Spirit Greatsword arts, which makes him even more excited. Laika uses her Thunder Grade technique and a Thunder Light Flash Strike. At first the hero seems to enjoy it, but later realized that her level is way too much, and that much lightning will be hard to handle in his current estate. It's just 1 star that makes this much of a difference between both of them. Her movements are simple just like before, but the instant she turns to a 2-star level, that Thunder Spirit Great Sword arts explode in her power. She was fast, but she is faster now, and the strange part is the lightning trap around her body, which was impossible to achieve 1,000 years ago. The hero cannot counterattack because he is uncertain about that power. The hero has a lot of confidence as he is still smiling in a situation like this. This irritates his opponent the most, and she keeps answering her lightning strikes towards him. Still, the hero is standing on his feet. As Lynxie insists, Laika decides to stop if he surrenders and swears loyalty to her. Since the hero refuses, she claims to use every inch of power in order to end this fight. With that, there comes a Thunder Spirit, the first secret art technique, Heavenly Thunder, and the hero is laying helplessly on the ground. The match is declared to be over, but to their surprise, Zeke again stands up, hitting an electrical strike, making his opponent curious. He explained how he was purposely taking her hitch in order to study them, and somehow he can use them as well. While he was taking those attacks, he kept using his Dragon King's breathing technique, which reacts with her lightning energy. Lightning starts generating inside his body, and he can control it himself without even realizing. He doesn't know much of the details, but according to him, her entire clan has a special constitution, and he receives a great lesson by fusing both the techniques. On top of that, thanks to Laika, he also reached the level of 2 stars, and the fight isn't over yet. Zeke seems to experience the extraordinary traits of strength, and will soon get his understanding on it. Langus is tense, witnessing the true strength of the heads, and even Laika's lightning hits are not reaching the hero. The fight is going on between the two, and after a while, the hero decides to end it by creating a new technique or a special form. While his opponent is lost in thoughts, he decides to take the charge and uses his special form, Dragon Slaying Arts, to strike a blow and takes her down in an instant. The fight was fascinating, and Laika is now in disbelief at her defeat because she even needs to surpass her brothers in order to become the next head. The hero is impressed and praises her skills with a smile. He even motivates her to learn new things since this isn't the last time, and she has to fight him again. Zeke offers Laika another battle some other day, while she considers him as an unbeatable individual. After a few hours, inside the fissure, Lord Balza restraining his Dragon Combat Arts first form. Just a word interrupts him, reporting about her daughter that she reached at level 2 star, which is quite fascinating at her age, and at the time of their graduation she can reach at level 4, or even 5 star. The Lord is still not bothered and orders him not to waste his time and talk to him when she can use the talent herself. The soldier informs him that she is recently defeated, and the one who defeated her is his own son, Lord Zeke. Balza understands because his mother also has the talent for battle, but she was long gone by the time he was born, so it is the curious part that who could have taught him skills strong enough to defeat 2 star. but he gets informed that Lord Zeke reached this level on his own without any teachings. In this case, Lord Balza commands to begin the first trial, which is premature, and most of the students haven't even reached the first star level. But according to him, that is equal for every individual no matter if they have trained or not. Those who cannot survive the first trial have no future, and he declared them to be unworthy of Eldragon. He commands to summon Freya back to oversee and conduct the trial, and have her keep a close watch throughout. The next day, there is a usual training going on of dragon combat art. The hero is mastering Ibuki Dragon's Breath, which was developed by the 15th generation and called a combat art, but in essence it is a body enhancement technique well constructed, so even children can learn it easily. Langus asks him, and he is not training, but the hero has already mastered it. He is surprised because it was only taught just a few hours ago. Zeke asks him to turn around and develops a channeling route to transfer his energy. His friend is impressed and thinks that this training might be boring to him because he has already defeated Lady Laika. Dragonslayer combat technique is an overwhelming power along with the spatial form bond within the hero from the battle with Laika. He believes that the final form also exists, which can slew the divine dragon itself. Zeke is curious about how these dragon techniques can be handled. Since the hero has mastered all the dragon combat art techniques, he is back on usual physical training. Just then, Langus requests him to provide training because he wants to grow stronger, and the hero agrees because he takes his friend as someone worth teaching. Soon enough, Laika also requests him to train her as well because the way he overwhelmed her in the fight earlier makes her want to get even stronger to surprise her brother and the hero himself. Zeke agrees on training her as well, but asks if she is fine since her wounds should have put her down for like a month. But as she has used a healing potion, so it's nothing to worry about, or else she must be resting on a bed for about a month. Laika again confirms if he is fine by training her and doesn't need his own time to train. The protagonist is ready to train both the young talents. Later, he asks Laika if she is fine training by a person who defeated her, but she is ready to do whatever it takes to get stronger and claim the leadership. The hero asks about the reason for her being obsessed with this position, to which she explains that if she doesn't manage to claim the leadership, according to their family customs, she will end up marrying someone. In the best cases, she will marry her cousin, and in the worst, it will be a stranger. The hero gets quite upset and his hatred increases for treating people like a breeding stock. Soon enough, the announcement goes on informing about the arrival of a new instructor who came all this way to guide them despite her busy schedule, so they advise everyone to be grateful towards her. Freya steps in, observing Laika's reflexes, sharp and flawless aura. They introduce her as Freya Wingkick, a member of the Black Dragon Corps. She warmly greets them all and recognizes Zeke asking about his non-surprise reactions. The hero confidently mentions how there is nothing to be surprised about, and mentions her intriguing skills, which makes Freya understand why the head was so concerned about this boy. The hero is taking interest in her martial arts as there is no sound even from her boots. Later, she advises everyone to pass her test, in which they have to take these crystal orbs and spend 1 month on Poisonous Dragon Mountain. It is the home of countless venomous beasts, and even brushing against a single poisonous weed can kill anyone instantly. Zeke used to train there in his past life. If their crystal orbs breaks or goes missing during the task, that student will immediately going to disqualify and initially get expelled from the academy. She advises them to control their breathing with dragon breath technique, and as long as they keep the orb intact, they will be fine. About the monsters, she suggested killing them, or else there won't be any food for them to survive a month. The students have still 5 days left in which they can each choose and learn one of the Eldragon family's basic martial arts, and survival will become easy for them once they get a fighting style. But for the ones who couldn't manage to train in these 5 days, she isn't responsible. Children throw an innocent question about if she will help them in danger, but as expected from Eldragon family, only the strong remain, so if someone can't win, he or she will simply die. Panic spreads when the students, while the hero is wondering if this family has changed this much. Just then, Freya distributes the manual for each weapon. While Langus is struggling to choose his weapon, Zeke advises him to pick a spear, the one he used in the earlier test. He even suggests Laika picking an axe, which will cover what she's lacking. After that, Freya advises everyone to train as their life depends on it, or else they will die. She further informed that during their test, the upperclassmen will try to steal their orbs as part of their task, but since the forest is huge, the rate of both of them crossing paths are rare. A wave of fear is spreading among the students. Zeke advises them to form teams if they cannot handle it alone, while he decides to go solo. He casually invites them to eat before training. 5 days later, it's finally time for their test, as they have all gathered to enter the forest. Langus nervously speaks that the time arrives, while Laika nods in agreement. He questions himself if he is truly fine to work beside her, and mutters that many belong to noble families while he is only a commoner. His fellows appear from behind and tell him that he is at the same level as them. Celine steps in and claims she also cannot believe that they work with Laika. Laika calmly replies that there is nothing to disbelieve and reminds them that all are chosen for their abilities. Langus tightens his grip on the rod and vows to give his all, and Raymond promises to live up to her expectations. Laika brightens and counts on them, then turns to Zeke and asks if he is sure about going solo. He nods with confidence while the others become nervous. Laika admits that she feels nervous too, but Zeke raises his brow and tells her that everyone there is talented enough. She questions him certainly, and he tells her that she and the others are sharp and their team's test will be easy, while Langus mutters that Zeke always remains confident. The new instructor steps forward and draws their attention. She observes them carefully and praises their group formation, and stating that teamwork will ensure their survival. She asks for their crystal orbs and explains that each must protect their own until the 1-month trial on Poison Mountains, as all orbs are identical. Zeke wonders if losing one means they can replace it. Freya continues and explains that on the mountain, they will face upperclassmen who will attempt to steal their orbs. A student asks if any of them have not reached the 1-star level, while another student claims that the task sounds easy. Freya commands them to proceed to begin the exam. They rush toward the mountain. Laika turns to Zeke and tells that she will meet him after the exam, then commands her group to move. Zeke waves calmly and Freya questions if he is not nervous. He smiles faintly and replies that he is fine, then steps forward as she watches with quiet curiosity. As moonlight spreads, an officer beside her questions if the exam is too harsh for the students. Another officer agrees and says the group still lacks combat experiences and wonders how many will truly endure. Freya assures them that the monsters on the mountain are not too strong and the teamwork will help them survive. The officer nods in agreement and Freya mutters something about releasing something. He asks for reassurance, but she brushes it off as nothing, then commands another group to head into the jungle. As the team moves ahead and spots a lone student, one archer immediately fires an arrow, but Zeke catches it easily and smirks. They look in disbelief and murmuring in confusion, but before they can react, he dashes forward and gestures for the real game to begin. Celine thrashes the monsters with her full force as another creature leaps from behind, but Raymond raises his shield and strikes through it. Lannis charges forward with his spear and pierces another monster. Laika praises them, and when they glance at her, their eyes widen at the sight of a pile of dead frog monsters around her. They claim that she truly cleared too many by herself. She chuckles softly and remarks that her 2-star level surely helps. She adds that both of them have gained 1 star since the week, while Langus lowers his head, but others encourage him, telling him that he will earn his star soon. Laika agrees and states that defeating the monster frog without a star is no small feat, and praising his flawless spear work after training with Zeke, then commands them to head back before nightfall. As they near their base, Laika halts upon seeing a senior student waiting ahead. The senior smirks while Laika questions if he has some to steal their orbs. The group tenses and Raymond lifts his shield. The senior nods and claims that the test itself is to steal orbs and admits he did not expect to encounter her base first. Laika warns him to leave before they kill him, stating that he cannot face them alone. Before she acts, 3 more seniors appear from behind. The lead one unsheathes his sword and strikes at her, ordering her to surrender. She dodges and the others rush forward. Raymond shields. Celine fights back with strength and Langus struggles to resist while the opponent demands his crystal. But Langus remembers Zeke's advice when he once asked how to face a powerful enemy. Zeke had told him that it was impossible for him to win against 3 or more upper-class fighters, yet there was still a way. Langus had questioned the method, and Zeke had smiled and instructed him to exploit an opening. Langus asked how to find it, and he told him to endure and keep doing it until the opponent exposes it, because the weaker one cannot force an opening by himself. Langus had clenched his fists and asked if he could truly endure that long. Zeke explained that endurance itself won the battle, and that defeating a stronger through patience is greater than strength, and the only Laika might be an exception to that rule. Zeke had reminded him to first believe in himself and not overthink, just wait and strike when the chance appears. Now Langus grits his teeth and holds his ground, and when the opponent loosens his guard for a brief moment, he charges and drives his spear straight through him. Meanwhile, Laika continues battling her own opponent. The senior resists but realizes her strength surpasses his even though both are 2 stars. She knows that it is from Zeke's advice and ends the fight with one decisive strike. She rushes to her team and asks if they are fine. They cheer, and Selene congratulates Langus for reaching 1 star while he is still in disbelief. Laika smiles and remarks that with everyone holding stars now they can survive the exam, and wonders aloud what Zeke's might be doing. At a distance, a girl from the last group runs, trembling and questioning what kind of monster he is. Around him lie bodies of the rest of the members, and Zeke stands among them. The scattering upperclassmen are running away screaming to save their own lives. They've encountered a literal monster, one that casually took them out. Meanwhile, our boy is chilling, calling them cowards for running away. Bro basically said, "I'm not trapped in here with you, you're trapped in here with me." The kids are running faster than Usain Bolt just to escape an inferior first year. They were the one who were supposed to hunt him, but the turns have been tabled. One upperclassman slips and falls. It's like a horror scene as he watches Zeke chillingly ordering him to stand up and at least try to fight him. His golden eyes glare into this kid's soul, making him regret his life's every decision. It's so bad that the kid ends up fainting out of fear, and I imagine Batman's glare must feel the same for his enemies. Zeke is a little disappointed how easy it was for him to dismantle the group, even though they were acting so Sigma and tough at the beginning while jumping him. Noticing someone spying on him from a spot, Zeke calls this person to come out already. Seeing as they refuse to come out, he takes it as a sign that he isn't breaking any rules and is free to do anything he wants. Anyway, the person who is spying on him is revealed to be an Upper Dragon captain. This guy is stunned to see a mere first-year wipe the floor with his upperclassmen, and the same kid even managed to call him out for spying on him. Intrigued, the captain intends to report the situation to his leader. He returns to the scarlet-haired beauty who demands a mission report. Her men start off from the very beginning. In 1 week of the test's duration, 32% of the kids have dropped out. But the ones who survived are quickly adapting to their environments, which means the numbers won't stoop lower than that. But the moment she asks about the condition of the upperclassmen, her men hesitate for a response. The same guy who observed everything reveals how the upperclassmen are running for their lives. The instructor is starstruck with his words. It just seems so baffling because there aren't any monsters beyond the level of the upperclassmen to threaten their lives, so the big question is, why are they running? The guy blurts out one name, it's Zeke. He has become the catastrophe, the demise of the upperclassmen, single-handedly hunting them down like insects. No one wants to be around him anymore. He's cutting them relentlessly, and he's on the chase instead. It's a situation so abnormal that they've never seen anything like it before. Even when it comes to Zeke being the son of the patriarch, the kid is crazy. He's not just a prodigy, he's a generational talent, one that can be classified as a literal monster for his age. Even the instructor remembers their brief but weird interaction, realizing that his strategy from the very beginning was to move alone, knowing that he'd unleash hell upon his victims. To be put it simply, Bro never even entertained the idea of being hunted. He was thrilled to do the hunting instead. Her factual glazing of Zeke entices the members of her squad, until suddenly they notice the arrival of something they've been waiting for. Freya tells the laborer to unload it on the spot, while the rest of her squad members start to question what the fudge is up to now. This woman is consistently increasing the difficulty of the exam, and intends to release some kind of monster at the 3-star level. Not even the upperclassmen should be able to withstand it. The sadistic mommy assures them that she made certain adjustments. First of all, it is conditioned to only target students of the 2-star level or beyond it. This means the kids without a star or even with 1 star won't be affected. But the big question is, why is she doing this at all? Interestingly, Freya reveals that it's a direct order from Lord Eldragon, the head of the family. She's genuinely curious about the outcome of this exam, especially concerning the so-called monster that Zeke has become. She wonders if the kid can handle something of this caliber, and instructs her men to release the creature by dawn. Dawn does arrive. Langus and Selene instantly sense the ground trembling. Lady Lyca's sharp instincts inform her that something is coming, even nastier than the upperclassmen they faced. At first, Langus assumes that it must be some kind of large monster, but Lyca knows full well that whatever it is, it's terrifying. The rumbling of the ground continues, startling the students as they all begin to worry. Lyca immediately realizes that the tree behind them is toppling down, so she roars everyone to move out the way. Luckily, she was able to protect Selene, and Raymond managed to guard Langus, making sure none of them got any injuries. Shaken by the sudden collapse of the tree, Lyca grips her sword to challenge the threat, while Langus and the others stare at the creature with fearful eyes. The towering monster before them is a terrifying stone golem, one that they'd never thought they would encounter on the mountain. I love how this is the isekai version of getting out of syllabus questions for your exams. Meanwhile, our boy is in a completely different location, sitting on top of monster corpses and unconscious upperclassmen. True manhwa fans will remember that one familiar scene with Arthur from the beginning after the end. Anyway, this guy is bored as hell. He's so strong that no one can match up to him, acting like he's the Gojo of this exam. But then, suddenly, he senses an ominous presence in the distance. This isn't any monster, it's something higher than the 2 class levels, which makes him wonder if the instructor is trying to send him a coded message. Still, it's weird to use this creature against the kids who are only 2 stars at best. Besides that, Instructor Freya should have informed them about this at the beginning of the exam. But then he realizes that this sadistic woman released it on purpose, making him wonder about their plans. However, this is the perfect chance for him to cure his boredom. Motivated, Bro jumps off from his pile of victims and makes the 3-class monster his new target. Unfortunately, he's going to have to spend a while going there since it's far away from his spot. Back to the golem onslaught, Selene tries to slash the stone monster with her sword, and of course doesn't seem to get any form of damage on its hard body. She doesn't have a single scratch, but somehow Raymond thinks he's the main character and whacks his shield. Again, no scratch at all. Finally, Lady Lyca goes all Zenitsu mode and activates her lightning-style Thunder Flash technique. That ultimate move just now barely chipped the creature. This confirms that only the attacks filled with aura can damage the golem's outer shell, which means anyone below her ranks is practically useless here. Langus begs her for a plan while she rallies them up, explaining her ridiculous strategy to play decoy to distract the monster, allowing them the chance to escape. None of them want to follow this plan because it means she'll be left behind, but Laika basically calls them weak-ass NPCs who will only get in her way. She managed to do a tiny amount of damage even after landing a powerful aura attack, which means the rest of them can't do anything with their power of friendship Naruto mindset. Her words are right, and though it's true that they can't take it down, Raymond steps up with his shield, vouching to support her just to make sure she lands all of her attacks. Laika thinks this is a reckless move, but Langus and Selene are also ready to support her, just as long as she can deal some form of damage. The power of friendship convinces her, and she orders her friends to cover her while she prepares. Lady Laika charges her attack and blitzes past them with thunderous aura. The golem reacts quickly to smash her into the ground, but Raymond is there to block the weight of the blow. Even then, it stuns his body just to block a single hit. He takes a timeout while Langus and Selene tag in to distract the golem with their repeated attacks. This allows the main assailant, Laika, to jump the golem from behind with an aerial slash. Activating her Thunder Spirit Greatsword arts, she hammers the behemoth with divine thunder, leaving trails of lightning in the sky. Upon the conclusion of the attack, the monster seems nowhere to be found. Langus comes to her rescue, as Laika seems staggered and lost. She used all of her energy just to activate that final trump card. But at least they managed to take out the monster, so she's happy that Raymond and the others are okay. But that happens to be their biggest misunderstanding as the golem suddenly emerges from the smoke, extending its hand towards the unguarded Laika. In the end, the monster snatches her in its grasp, while her friends are useless to help. She knows she made a huge mistake without confirming the kill, while Selene is terrified how the monster is still functioning fine even after basically a mini nuke. Langus wants to play a hotshot and charges in with his spear to help her, but the golem casually snatches her away, causing Langus to scream in worry. Suddenly, a gigantic tree is tossed all the way from the sky, whipping its way towards the golem. The monster is smashed with the weight of the tree, simultaneously freeing Laika in the process. Langus and his party take her to exit the dangerous area, not knowing what the hell happened. Zeke arrives with his special entry, joining in all the fun. He doesn't even care about his friends and feels ecstatic for his next victim's demise. Before all this happened, he could spot Laika's momentous final attack from far away. He knew that her group was trying to defeat the monster, but found himself severely limited to reach them in time. In his prime Kobe Bryant era, he would have instantly teleported with insane speed. Even though Laika's group is pretty good, they just can't beat a 3-star monster. It's more like a game of survival for them, a countdown until they get wiped out. Knowing that he couldn't run fast enough, our boy decided to experiment something new. Carving his fingers into the heart of a tree, he pulls it straight from the ground, showcasing insane levels of strength for a child. Then this kid sends the tree flying to God knows where, hoping that it probably becomes a ballistic missile and hits the monster. Zeke felt really good about what he did just now, because this tree-throwing technique is actually something much deeper. He talks about the dragon nurturing arts. The L-Dragon Combat Manual is given to students before taking the exam. It's an ordinary technique booklet, and it's not really a proper style, but a guide to unlock more efficient strength. The good thing is that it proved helpful to Zeke, because in his past life, he took advantage of long-range attacks as the first head. Anyway, after tossing that tree, Bro started running again. Back to the present, he greets his friends who are shocked to see him. Langus reminds him about the dangerous golem coming here to kill them all. But instead of running away, Bro feels amused to challenge a powerful monster. Interestingly, the creature doesn't seem to boast any form of life force despite having a presence. While he's casually holding a conversation, the 3-star behemoth whips a powerful punch in his way. The punch slams Zeke head on, but here's the kicker. This kid catches it with a single palm. Thanks to his genius battle IQ, he can tell right away that the monster won't be affected by normal-based attacks, and though he could easily wipe it out with aura, he doesn't want to finish things so soon. Laika watches him practically toy with the same monster that gave them a run for their money. Anyway, the golem attempts to slam him with both hands, causing Zeke to reflect on the monster's incredible speed even for its enormous size. He ends up successfully blocking the slam, feeling some level of mild discomfort in the process. Zeke tells his friends to stay out of the fight as they could get hurt, causing them to flee from the area. Now that he doesn't have to worry about going all out, Zeke shifts his weight and ends up flinging a monster 10 times his size. He still has to take care of the creature's hard shell and wonders if the golem is just as sturdy on the inside. In order to test his theory, he powers up a punch and blazingly hammers it on the golem's body. This move is Form 1 of the Dragon Destroyer combat arts, which he combines with a second style burst to pulverize the golem's interior. The burst aspect of his technique doesn't just focus on breaking the shell, but actually crushing the creature from the inside. And just like that, with a single move, Bro one-shots the creature, having gained some level of fun from the experience. A month passes after the conclusion of the exam, and we arrive at the main estate of the Eldragon family. Here, Zeke is summoned much to his annoyance. He reflects on the conclusion of the earlier exam, as nothing significant happened after the Golem incident. Zeke's 7-year-old class members ended up dropping down to 70%, but the members who survived became familiar with death and ended up achieving the 1-star level. Shortly after the test conclusion, Zeke was forcefully summoned to meet the Patriarch, his father. While walking through the hall, he mutters his annoyance while Freya reminds his dumbass to give the Patriarch proper respect. She rants off about how he behaved in the exam and basically spelled his own doom in the process. But our boy doesn't understand what she means by that. He didn't do anything wrong. Freya roars at him for obliterating the upperclassmen's test, attacking them and hunting them down when it wasn't really required. Because of that, not a single one of the upperclassmen managed to acquire an orb for their personal test. They even have to retake the exam. That's how bad he ended them. Freya is frustrated with his actions, and begs him to fix his disrespectful tone when he meets the head, as the two of them finally arrive at the Patriarch's door. The reason she keeps lecturing him to tone down and be humble is because if he doesn't do that, he will literally get eviscerated from existence. Lord Eldragon is a ruthless man with zero regard for children, and Freya doesn't want Zeke to get slaughtered like that. Even our boy feels intimidated after hearing that. Before entering his chambers, Freya announces her rank and mission intention. He allows her permission to enter, so the two of them go inside. Our nonchalant midget stares at the man sitting at his desk, his first encounter with the head of the family. Lord Eldragon is mildly annoyed, and without even extending his greetings, the dude straight up demands to know why the kid attacked his upperclassmen. Responding casually, Zeke expresses his annoyance, questioning if he broke any rules by attacking. His response baffles the Patriarch, while the boy continues to argue that the only condition of the exam is to survive 1 month with the crystal orb intact. No other details or conditions were mentioned, so he followed what he was tasked. Zeke straight up grills his father, saying that he should have mentioned any bullshit rules before the exam began. Freya's face tells you everything. She's scared shitless because just earlier she told him not to argue. She even tries to talk some sense into him, while the boy's father releases an ominous aura, terrifying her in pace. Just the sheer overwhelm of his pressure is enough to knock her down. With this kind of pressure, Freya thinks that Zeke is going to get murdered. Instead, he doesn't experience anything and mocks his father again for using petty moves at the slightest agitation. The Patriarch finds himself stunned to see him unaffected by the pressure. He pries further by asking the boy how he managed to defeat not only a fleet of upperclassmen, but also a 3-star golem. If that wasn't unbelievable enough, this 7-year-old just aura farmed his way through his overwhelming pressure too. It makes no sense in his eyes how a boy like him could manifest such damning power. Zeke realizes that the focus is being placed on the source of his strength, and instead of explaining properly, he just calls it his personal genius. Arrogance meets arrogance, both father and son eyeing each other down. Lord Eldragon admits that the boy's attitude is rash just like the report stated, but that won't matter as he still managed to beat a golem. His reward is an item from the Dragon Treasury, or access to the 2nd floor of the Dragon Hall. A choice between the two. What's most surprising to Freya is how this man went from nearly killing his son to now offering him a reward. Let's discuss both options. The Dragon Hall and Dragon Treasury are vaults, each of them filled with 1,000 years worth of collectibles ever since the time of Gilphus himself. It includes plenty of books, even those that are banned in the present era. It even contains the greatest weapons, artifacts, and every possible item one needs. The facilities are supposed to be the family's ultimate treasury, but they're monitored so strictly that only a couple of students are lucky enough to enter inside. The 2nd floor of the Dragon Hall is also special, requiring tremendous accomplishments for its access. Freya can't believe her eyes. This kid is acting like a brat and he still got rewarded by his pops. To piss him off, Zeke taunts his father to give him access to both rewards. Lord Eldragon demands him to leave, but the kid disobeys a direct order and complains that he's got more questions to ask. Freya knows this clown is going to get himself killed through his tongue and grabs him to leave right away. She's like a worried mother protecting her child. But as she's dragging him away, the kid leaves on a final note. Zeke humiliates his father that the more he tries to subdue his emotions, the further he will become from being the strongest. In that moment, Lord Eldragon watches a manifestation of Zeke's might, making him an equal to him in potential. Freya shuts his ass and takes him away, leaving Lord Eldragon to reflect on the kind of presence he just felt. In the next scene, the instructor is ranting again, shouting at the idiot for acting disrespectful against the leader, ignoring all her warnings. Zeke tried his best but ultimately gave up. Hilariously, this is actually him holding back his words, which makes you wonder what else he could have said. Freya just doesn't get why he treats the teachers with respect, but can't show the same to his own father. Considering the boy's strength and then his rocky personality, she deems him an unordinary child, even beginning to question his real identity. Trolling her, Zeke states that he's just him. Freya internalizes that everyone in their family drank the ancient dragon's blood upon birth, the head of the family carries a might of a superior dragon too, which means by nature alone, they shouldn't be able to defy his wrath. And yet, this same boy managed to not only challenge his father, but also hold his ground. He's something else and she can't figure out what. Suspicious, she intends to check his birth records. But for now she changes topics and asks him which of the two rewards he'll choose. Putting up an adorable little face, he picks both, much to Freya's annoyance. In the end, Zeke comes to his decision. He is in pursuit of knowledge. Having reincarnated 1,000 years into the future, comes with a gulf in his understanding of the current age. That's why he's curious to know about the advancement of medicine and technology. His biggest fan, Langus, celebrates how he's able to enter the Dragon Hall. Both of them are excited. The thing is, Langus already learned dragon slaying and nurturing spear arts, but this is an even greater opportunity for him to master a new martial art. Lady Laika comes along, sharing that they needed to act quickly, because there is also a time limit. The first floor is of the basic level, and they're told to borrow one book only at one time, which is why they needed to pick wisely. At the same time, Laika came to learn about Zeke's personal reward of being able to choose between the treasury or the hall. She's surprised that he ended up picking the Dragon Hall instead of choosing a weapon or something. Our boy would have definitely done that if not for the fact that he's way behind on the knowledge of the current era. The books of the second floor are the best part. They're rarer than even the first, and only Zeke has access to this level. Still, Laika thinks nothing in that library can surpass her Thunderclap greatsword art techniques. While she's glazing herself, Zeke zones off. In the next scene, the supervisor informs them that they only have 5 hours for the hall. It's hard to tell if this duration is considered long, but anyway, Laika comes up with a strategy to pick one book that they want to borrow, and use the rest of the time to read the others that can't be borrowed. Fast readers would benefit here a lot, but Langus is interested in honing on a martial arts book to read in 3 hours. It's difficult to choose the right book for each person, especially in a hall as grand as this one. As they're teleported inside, the party members become ecstatic at the glory of the Dragon Hall, exceeding Zeke's expectations far more than he imagined. He sets his sights on obtaining a piece of book that will knock the wind out of him, and so begins the reading experience. Zeke wilds out the second he gets his hands on the books. He's out here blitzing through content related to magic and chaos. It's too much information for him to just give up on. 1,000 years have left an incredible mark. Turns out that in that time span, their world ended up forming a connection with another one. Nearly 900 years into the past, a gigantic crack shook their reality, creating a dimensional wall called a rift. From it came the chaotic otherworld, the Chaos Realm Kansei. This world inhabited monsters birthed from the element of chaos, and in order to resist their wrath, the people of Zeke's world ended up forming primal energies within their bodies. The Eldragon family is responsible for aiding humanity against the tides of chaos. This allowed many bonds to form between families on the battlefield. 4 special warriors ended up marrying members of the Eldragon house, which ended up forming Typhona, Fafwild, Levias, and Bahamut factions. They're now considered the 4 great Eldragon families, and it all makes sense now, especially when the Angerboar was covered in dark energy while Zeke fought it. Even Laika's thunderous aura exhibits such an energy. All of it came from a different dimension, but the most interesting part that stands out to him is the evolution of magic. With the connection to a dark reality, came a new kind of technique. Unfortunately, Bro can't find a book related to the contents of that technique, especially when something this brilliant should be hailed as a part of history. His excitement is so loud that he draws the supervisor's attention, insisting the boy to keep quiet while reading. The strangest part is how there isn't a presence around him, and he could still hear the voice. This makes him wonder if this is the same magic, the same new technique, something that can be used via voice. But the problem is that aside from ordinary primal energy, he can't tell what's special about it. Suddenly, all of his books end up floating in a trail of yellow, levitating all on their own. Zeke can't contain his reaction, and finds himself amused with the technique. The supervisor tells him to be quiet again, but Zeke just can't contain his reaction at the verge of experiencing a new level of growth. While he was busy wasting his time being excited, the library suddenly ended up closing in on him. Threads of ether restrain him before tossing his ass out the door. Zeke barely holds himself together while sticking his landing, questioning what the heck just happened. Bro wants to learn the same ether technique and demands the guy to use it again. Even Langus can't tell what's up with him, while Laika is confused why he's the only one who got yeeted out unlike the rest of them. Fortunately, Langus found an interesting martial arts manual that he borrowed called the Cloud Water Spear Technique. Then there's Celine, who learned a movement art alongside Wind Blossom sword technique. Raymond got his fair share by practicing the Eldragon Guardian sword technique in the library. He even got a book for his shield skills. Basically, they ended up learning the same martial arts that Zeke created in his previous life while trolling. Finally, he asks Laika, hoping to learn what she got from the experience. She reveals a book containing the Heavy Wave Greatsword technique that the 15th Lord improved. This is Zeke's second time hearing about another 15th generation, making him wonder what's so special about it. Anyway, the 15th Lord is also directly responsible for creating Dragon Slayer combat arts. Now, even though our boy made a ton of techniques that became important manuscripts in the hall, a lot of them were improved versions of what he created. This means the 15th Lord is responsible for their advancement, impressing even the likes of Zeke himself. At first, he thought that his school life would be nothing but filled with boredom. But now, he's excited for the journey to come. We get a huge time skip that takes us 5 years into the future. Here, a 12-year-old Laika is looking around to find Zeke and her friends. She learns from Langus that our boy is at the training grounds. Speaking of the training grounds, Zeke is currently squaring off against 3 of his friends, having become much stronger by age 12. Meanwhile, his father is informed about the appearance of a special rift. Standing in front of him is his Black Dragon Corps commander, Ain, who has already investigated the rift, leading them to assume it might contain magic water. The bad is that the rift is located in a controversial spot. Basically, the magic water is vital for any house because it has the capability to awaken magic by converting a person's ether source into true magic power. Not only does this bring evolution to the world, but it also leads to endless territorial wars over magic springs. In this era, the number of mages determines a house's military strength, and unfortunately, the Eldragon house doesn't own a single spring. That's why they are so desperate to conquer a special rift, and appearance of one in their territory provides them the opportunity. Currently, only a few people, including Balza, are mages in Eldragon territory. All of them are seasoned veterans who gained their magic via previous rifts. Because houses with magic springs overwhelm others through sheer numbers, gaining this rift is their top priority. The catch? The rift is in the abandoned dragon forest, right where a small-scale border clash is brewing. While most of the forest lies within Eldragon territory, it extends into land claimed by another house, who call the area the Abundant Hound Forest. That house is the Cerberus house. At that moment, Ain confirms that while the rift is technically in their territory, it reaches into Cerberus land as well. Judging by their character, the Cerberus house will definitely make a play for it. Balza agrees. Since it's a special rift, both sides have limited moves and must weigh the territorial dispute carefully. They need to move before their enemy makes a move. That's why he orders him to inform every Dragon Nest student that they are holding a selection trial. Ain immediately complies. Meanwhile, our boy and his crew are having a spar, with all of them going all out. Selene uses her Windflower sword art, Scattering Blossom. Raymond uses his Stonewall Fist, and Langus uses his Water Piercer. All of them charge at Zeke at once, but he stays ready, tackling and blocking every single attack. He praises their effort but points out Langus's flaw. Because he's so tense, he's killing the strength of his spear technique. As for Selene, she's too focused on the speed and number of strikes, meaning her power isn't carrying through. She needs to find a balance. Raymond, however, is doing well, but he needs to rely more on offense instead of just hunkering down on defense. He offers for them to come at him once again. At the sidelines, Laika comments on the insanity of the spar since he isn't even using his true source energy while taking those attacks head-on. While dodging Raymond, our guy reminds her that this is part of the training. It makes their bodies sturdy without relying on true source power. She drawls that he should probably stop the kids from attacking while they're trying to talk, finally giving up on his strange behavior. Raymond and Selene add that it's mysterious how Zeke has such a powerful defense without using true source. Laika jokes that our dude doesn't even count as human. The seniors now call him the monster prodigy of the East Wing. He now comes to the point and asks her purpose to be there, to train or for something else. She explains that she doesn't mind training, but she came to inform them that they might soon be meeting the other Dragon Nest kids. This makes the group pause their session. Selene guesses there might be another exam, but their princess can't say much about the purpose of the gathering. She just caught wind of it from the instructor's behavior. Our boy declares he never pays attention to that stuff, but she cautions him. They are about to meet the other candidate for the headship from the West Wing. A few days later, all the students gather regardless of their grades. Freya steps forward and tells everyone to shut up. Once she gets silence, she drops a bomb that they are going to fight the children from the other dragon nests in 3 days. There is quite a murmur after the announcement because something like this usually only happens for graduation exams. Freya doesn't offer much of an explanation. She simply tells them that whoever survives the match will be given a special mission. This catches our boy's attention, and his eyes practically turn into stars at the prospect of such an important task. She explains that the format is a winner stays on battle, with each wing, south, north, west, and east, sending 7 fighters. Everyone assumes these 7 will be top-year students, which raises the question of why she gathered everyone, including the first-year weaklings. After a while, when Freya left, a top-year student named Rick challenges the crowd. He declares that they are going to send 7 specific fighters from senior class and expects no objections. But Laika speaks up, offering herself as a candidate for the match. Rick is arrogant enough for thinking a noble bloodline isn't enough to bridge the gap between her and the strength of the seniors. In response, the Eldragon's princess accepts the challenge and reveals her 3 stars. The seniors are taken back. They assumed she'd only have two. She agrees that the strongest should be chosen and challenges anyone who thinks they have more power than her to step up. Rick admits she is special, but he still deems the other juniors beneath them. That's when our dude interjects, commenting on how loud they're being. After a brief argument, he darkly suggests a fight to determine the final 7. His half-sister isn't a fan of the idea, as it could get violent, so she suggests holding preliminaries for volunteers regardless of their year. If they are confident, they can show their strength. Once the plan is settled, she turns to her companions. Our hero immediately agrees to participate, but his timid friend is hesitant. Zeke reminds him of all the training they've done together. Despite the immense pressure, the crew agrees to jump in. Laika looks to the rest of the crowd, but no other students come forward to face the seniors. Now, it's our usual crew against the upperclassmen. Zeke is desperately to see exactly what kind of strength these seniors are packing. The preliminaries begin, and the seniors are oozing confidence. They're convinced the juniors are just a selfish, weak bunch, agreeing that aside from their head-to-be, everyone else is a mere 2-star. On the other hand, our boy's crew is visibly nervous. When Langus points out they are facing seniors with 3 stars, he reminds them that they've trained with him for 5 years. They should have some faith in themselves. This lifts their spirits just as the top-year students rush in, swords raised, ready to put the brats in their place. However, a moment later, the crowd watches in astonishment as Zeke's crew dismantles the upperclassmen. He is proud of their progress. Langus has become much sharper at deflecting attacks and spotting openings. Celine handles the multi-strike windflower sword style with grace, and Raymond's tactics have evolved as he switches cleanly between shield techniques and swordplay. Not to mention, Laika is significantly stronger than she used to be. Witnessing the seniors fall so easily, Rick protests, claiming there's no way the juniors can overcome the gap of 3 stars. Zeke steps forward, reminding him that he just watched his friends lose, yet he's still spouting nonsense. He argues that while age usually indicates the number of stars, real strength is what determines a winner. His senior shouts back, insulted that Zeke would ignore the basic fact that stars equal power. Our boy responds darkly, telling him that stars or no stars, if someone destroys your heart, you die. He tells his senior to stop denying reality. In battle, the only thing that matters is results. Unintimidated, Rick demands to know who Zeke thinks he is, claiming he was only being lenient because they're kids. Zeke isn't interested in a shouting match. He wants this so-called upperclassman to show what he's actually got, as they are the only 2 left on the field. Rick takes the bait and lunges with a high-strength fist technique, but he can't even touch Our, who simply punches him away. Zeke mockingly praises his effort, while his sister taunts our boy that he is saying this. Even Rick was unable to land a single hit. Meanwhile, at the west wing of the Dragon Nest, the ground is littered with defeated students. Standing over them is none other than Vanille Fafnir Eldragon, the other candidate for the headship. His trusted aide, Alan, informs him that the selection for their candidates is complete. All of them are 3-star warriors. Among them is Langus's old bully, Retin, who has also reached 3 stars. Vanille notes that despite being from a lower class, Retin has talent, even promising to make him a direct subordinate if he proves useful. After listening this, the greedy bully is already daydreaming as he's confident that with Vanille leading them, the West Wing will win. He imagines that completing this special mission will secure his boss the headship, placing Retin in a prime position of power. Alan whispers to Vanille that Laika will be fighting for the other side. Vanille pauses for a second, then brushes the worry aside. He is certain he will be the winner and clear the special mission. Once that's done, he can finally show his brothers that the position of the next head of house belongs to him alone. Finally, after 3 days, everyone gathers in the main hall. Looking at the massive crowd, Langus is a nervous wreck. Laika notes that even though the exams eliminated a ton of students, the sheer number of people left is still impressive. The country boy remembers that those students will eventually be called mock dragons, just like his father. To settle his nerves, his blonde friend reminds him that they were chosen as representatives of their wing, and should be proud. He agrees with her, while promising to give it his all. Meanwhile, she also notices how quiet our boy is being. Notice her concern. He explains her that he's just busy measuring the strength of the competition, a comment that earns a cheer from Rick and his classmate, who have basically become Zeke's fan club since he kicked their butts. At that moment, he notices that while almost everyone outside of the East Wing is a 3-star, there aren't any 4 stars in sight. However, he eyes a few people who are right on the edge of hitting that 4th star, Vanille being one of them. Instead of being intimidated, Zeke is actually hyped to see what they can do. Suddenly, someone pulls Laika into a hug. Startled, she sees that it's none other than her cousin, Sandy Toporna, daughter of the Toporna family head. The commoners in the group are starstruck by her high noble status. Sandy looks the crew over and scoffs, commenting on how weak they look for people supposed to be aiding a headship candidate like Laika. Our boy chimes in, telling her she'll see their real worth once the fighting starts. When Laika hesitantly introduces Zeke as another candidate, her cousin immediately puts 2 and 2 together. He's the famous illegitimate child. She bluntly remarks that someone like him shouldn't even be surviving. Laika tries to call her out for being rude, but her cousin gives her a reality check. Bastard or not, Zeke is her rival, and the fact that she's surrounded by weaklings makes the East Wing look low quality. He just tells her not to look down on them, or she'll end up falling into a trap. The elder girl bristles at a guy with no backing daring to talk back to her, but Zeke just shrugs it off as friendly advice. Before things can escalate, Aegis Vanblade from the North Hall steps in, advising everyone to stop causing trouble. Sandy isn't thrilled about the intervention, but her hallmate reminds her that the selection match is about to begin. Right on cue, the captain of the Gold Dragon Order, Teach Mentric, better known as the Dread Educator, steps forward and announces the start of the matches. Basically, the tournament is a joint knockout battle between the 4 halls. First, the halls are split into 2 pairs, and the winners of those brackets will face each other in the final. The battles are one-on-one duels. Each hall sends out a fighter one at a time in a predetermined order. Out of the 7 participants, the hall that defeats 4 opponents first is the winner. Mentric warns everyone that the order cannot be changed once the match begins, so they need to think carefully about their strategy. He repeats that the winners will receive a special mission of great importance to the Eldragon family, a contribution that could change their lives. At that moment, both Laika and Vanille know that clearing this mission is a massive step toward becoming the next head of house. Then, it's time for the matchups. The representatives step forward to draw stones from a box. Vanille comes forward first. The blonde princess immediately points him out to Zeke, who notices that not only is Vanille powerful, but his entire team looks formidable. He also spots Retin in the West Wing lineup, acknowledging the bully's talent for reaching 3 stars at such a young age. The bully notices Zeke and Langus as well, his face souring at the sight of someone like Langus standing among the representatives. One by one, the North and South representatives draw their stones. When it's the East Wing's turn, Laika urges Zeke to go instead of her since he's the strongest. When he jokes that the honor should go to the youngest, she dryly reminds him they're the same age. Meanwhile, her cousin is annoyed that an illegitimate son is representing the East Hall instead of Laika. She protests that he isn't even a 3-star, and insists the real battle is between her and Vanille. Laika doesn't budge, assuring her that their team is stronger than they look. Finally, everyone pours their ether into the stones to reveal the colors. 2 turn blue and 2 turn red. The brackets are set. It's North Hall versus East Hall, and South Hall versus West Hall. During that time, the psychological warfare begins as a student from the North Hall immediately intimidates a terrified poor Langus. Meanwhile, Sandy also challenges her cousin, vowing to give her a wake-up call that will remind her exactly where she stands in the family hierarchy. Laika, on the other hand, calmly accepts the challenge. Nearby, a surprisingly civil moment occurs between Aegis and Zeke. The two exchange a brief, friendly conversation, both clearly looking forward to testing their steel against one another in the trial to come. The first match kicks off with East Hall facing North Hall. Rick is practically vibrating with determination, though the half-siblings can clearly see the nerves underneath his tough exterior. As the duel begins, Rick squares up with his fists ready. Zeke watches closely, noting that in a real competition, there's no such thing as a guaranteed win, even if Rick is already loudly claiming victory for himself. His sister points out that many of the North fighters rely on raw, unrefined power, much like Rick's own style. He agrees and suggests that Rick should just stick to what he knows best. As the boy lunges at his opponent, Laika mentions the massive pressure of performing in front of such a huge crowd. Our hero adds that while most are sweating it out, elites like Aegis and Sandy are likely fine since they're both right on the doorstep of becoming 4-star mages. He also figures her cousin probably uses a style similar to Laika's, which would make for a perfect challenge for her. Unfortunately, things don't go as planned, and the North Hall takes the win. This loss heaps a ton of pressure on the East Hall, and they end up dropping the second match as well. The defeated students are hit hard by guilt, but their leader quickly steps in to brush it off. He tells them they just got caught up in the arena's intensity. Since this isn't a life-or-death situation, he encourages them to use this safe environment to test their limits, so they'll be ready for a real battlefield one day. With 2 losses on the board, the next match is a must-win. This realization has Langus spiraling. He's been a total wreck since the morning, and his opponent looks genuinely intimidating. Zeke tries to ground him, reminding him that he's already proven he can take down upperclassmen. His friend isn't sold, though. The guys at his own hall weren't this scary, and the thought of failing in front of everyone is eating at him. To help him focus, Zeke tells him to ignore everything but the opponent's sword. He gives his friend a simple set of reactions. If the sword thrusts, he should deflect. If it swings up, he should pull back. And if it comes down, he needs to step in and strike. He guides him to just respond to the blade's movement and nothing else. Zeke knows that while his timid friend struggles to find his center, his concentration is unbeatable once he actually locks in. Langus finally stands before his enemy. The crowd mumbles about how small he looks compared to the bigger North Hall fighter, betting against him from the start. But the country boy is tuned in. The match starts, and the opponent immediately breaks out the 3-leaf swordsmanship, rushing forward with a piercing strike. Langus is ready, though. He reads the movement and dodges with ease. Frustrated, the senior claims he won't lose to a kid and lunges again. From the sidelines, Celine is biting her nails, noticing the North student is crowding their friend and taking away his reach. Zeke stays cool, pointing out that Langus's eyes show he's finally in the zone. He's right as Langus ducks another strike, sending his opponent into a total rage. The senior unleashes a non-stop barrage of blows, but the petite boy counters perfectly with his Cloudwater Spear technique, moving like flowing water. The opponent is completely stunned by the fluid skill. Before he can even process what's happening, Langus hits him with a Raging Current Pierce and shuts the match down. The East Wing finally grabs a victory. As Langus breathes a massive sigh of relief, the momentum starts to shift back in their favor. After Langus's hard-earned win, the East Hall finds its rhythm. Celine and Raymond pick up 2 more victories, leaving the team just 1 win away from a total comeback. The next match is the one everyone is waiting for. Laika versus Sandy. Our girl notes that it has been a long time since they faced each other like this. Both of them wield the power of the Thunder Spirit, but Sandy is openly dismissive. She admits she never expected East Hall students, who haven't even reached 3 stars, to actually pull off wins against her team. Laika simply tells her that they are stronger than they look. Her cousin brushes this off, arguing that the strength of allies is secondary. To become the next head, she believes one needs overwhelming individual power. She accuses Laika of putting herself in second place behind the illegitimate son, which she sees as a risk to Laika's own position. The blonde heiress admits that while she might be second to Zeke right now, she hasn't given up on the headship, and she is aiming to win against Sandy too. Sandy trashes the challenge and immediately vanishes from her spot, reappearing behind Laika for a lightning-fast strike. Laika spins and blocks the attack with her sword just in time. Watching closely from the sidelines, Aegis notices that his classmate has the upper hand, especially since she wields the Thunder Spirit with more precision than her cousin. He wonders just how long Laika can actually hold out. One of Sandy's strikes connects, but Laika stops herself from falling. The cut is shallow, but she needs to catch her breath. Langus worries that Sandy's raw strength is overwhelming Laika, while Raymond reminds the group that their friend was once trained by her cousin. Frustrated, Laika rushes in, swinging her sword wildly. Her opponent recognizes this as an old habit Laika falls into whenever she is cornered. Gritting her teeth, Laika unleashes a lightning flash slash, which Sandy counters with scattered thunder. The ground explodes in a burst of electricity as the 2 powers collide. The heiress is blown back, looking pretty beat up. Her taunts her, claiming she hasn't improved her bad habits at all. She suggests that if Laika had come to the North Hall instead of the East, she wouldn't be in this mess. Our girl protests, insisting the match isn't over. Her cousin tells her to just give up, regretting that she didn't persuade her father to force Laika into the North Hall sooner. Refusing to back down, Laika readies her sword. Her opponent decides it's time to teach her cousin a final lesson and strikes again, connecting once more. As Laika tries to hit back, Sandy evades and leaps into the air for a finishing move. While the rest of the crew is terrified for her, Zeke remains confident. He believes this fight is exactly what his half-sister needs to break out of her shell. Meanwhile, Sandy unleashes Heavenly Thunder, and a massive bolt of lightning explodes right where Laika is standing. By all accounts, the match should be over. But as the smoke clears, Sandy is shocked to see her cousin still standing. She can't believe Laika survived her finishing blow. Laika admits that the old version of herself would have been defeated, but she has spent the last 5 years training just as hard. She declares that the match isn't over. In fact, it is just beginning. Laika recalled her conversation with our guy just before the match. He had noticed her nerves immediately. She admitted to him that her anxiety stemmed from facing her cousin. In reality, Sandy's father was her mentor, the one who taught her the fundamentals of the Thunderclap Greatsword arts. But whenever she struggled, Sandy was the one who stepped in to correct her. In that way, Sandy was also her mentor. Beyond that, Laika had never actually defeated her. She reasoned that if she had been training for the last 5 years, her cousin must have been doing the same, making a victory feel nearly impossible. To ease her doubts, Zeke asked her to look back on those 5 years. Though the memory was bitter and soured her expression, he pointed out her biggest flaw, her habit of letting her emotions get the better of her. He reminded her that her training with him had centered on staying calm. All she needed to do against her mentor was keep her cool while observing her movements. Laika was still hesitant, wondering if that would really be enough, but he assured her she would see the results in the heat of battle. He told her that her talent for reading an opponent's movement was the real deal. Besides, he also presses that she should be confident simply because she had been trained by someone like him. There was no reason to worry about past wins or losses anymore. Her expression softened as she realized how easy he made everything seem, and she finally started to calm down. Just before she moved toward the arena, Zeke gave her one last piece of advice. Since Sandy was the one who taught her the original technique, Laika actually had a chance to become even stronger by observing her mentor's improved version of the art. In the present, Laika is actually observing Sandy's Thunderclap Greatsword arts. She has taken the previous attacks head-on specifically to study how her former mentor uses her magic. Suddenly, Laika rushes toward a baffled Sandy, whose eyes widen as she realizes her cousin is speeding up. The blonde princess attacks again, forcing Sandy to brace herself against a thunder needle. Without giving her a chance to read the movement, Laika follows up with a thunder flash slash. She finally reveals that this is the tempo variation Sandy has always used, but Laika lacked. Now, she understands it clearly, and is putting it into practice mid-fight. Sandy can't believe that her former student has learned this while trading blows. Her hallmates are amazed to see her movements change so drastically. Zeke admits that fighting someone who uses the same art is the best way to learn. When asked why her style shifted, he explains it's because she observed Sandy's technique and mastered it on the fly. This was possible because they had trained to analyze an enemy's technique while receiving it directly. He tells Rick that while their lady usually gets heated in battle, she has improved enough to stay calm and observe her opponent. Meanwhile, Sandy refuses to give up, assuming Laika's technique is just a hastily copied version. She unleashes another thunderbolt, questioning if she is really being overpowered. She denies it, reminding herself of her own rigorous training. However, Laika rushes in and shows her the true power of the Thunderclap Greatsword arts. Her Heavenly Thunder move is the finishing blow, leaving the arena crackling with lightning. Before going down, her former mentor chuckles and admits that Laika has really grown stronger. The match is over, and the winner is the East Hall. Vanille notices our boy from across the room. Meanwhile, the crew rushes to Laika, though Zeke isn't exactly happy that he didn't get a turn to fight. Laika comments that if she had lost, he would have been the one fighting Aegis. When asked if she knows Aegis, she denies knowing him personally, but notes he's famous enough to be called the greatest genius of the Van Blade family. Inwardly, Zeke admits that Aegis is ahead of all the other competitors. Even for Zeke, the results of a match against him are a total mystery. At that moment, the captain steps forward and declares that even though the East Hall has claimed victory, the matches will continue. This catches everyone's attention. Even Merlin comments that the event should be over. Our dude suspects there's an ulterior motive but brushes the concern off. After all, he finally gets the match with Aegis he wanted, and for him, that's enough. A while later, both opponents for the 7th match finally stand face to face. The genius prodigy openly admits his hall has already lost the tournament, but he's still itching for a fight. Our hero is actually a bit taken aback by how badly the guy wants to square off. Aegis explains that it's only natural for him to be curious. After all, Zeke is representing the East Wing, while a powerhouse like Laika follows his lead. The fact that our guy is officially only a 2-star makes the challenge even more tempting. Zeke pauses for a second, then grins, admitting he feels the same way. Out of all the fighters here, Aegis is on a completely different level, the prodigy of the century, and Zeke is more than ready to test that reputation. The crowd of students is buzzing as Aegis draws his blade. It's been a while since Zeke fought a serious swordsman. As the match begins, his opponent closes the distance in a single, impressive footstep. He readies his weapon, utilizing his 1000-blade single sword style, and lashes out with a light blade technique. Our hero notices Aegis's presence seemingly vanish from the blade right before the strike, but he dodges just in time by twisting his body. His opponent assumes the hit landed, but Zeke just praises the move and urges him to show more. Obliging, Aegis switches to his wave blade, this time infusing it with a water affinity. While dodging the relentless strikes, our dude admits the technique makes the blade's path incredibly hard to read. Still, he catches on quickly, leaping into the air to evade a raging surge. Again, he can't help but praise his opponent. Aegis then comes at him with a light blade that moves like a lightning strike, making his patterns even tougher to track. He realizes Aegis truly deserves the genius title. His movements are unpredictable, his speed and power never drop, and his ether flows perfectly. Even though Aegis is reading Zeke's breathing rhythm with the precision of relentless training, our boy still dodges every attack perfectly. His opponent is clearly impressed, wondering what kind of insane training he has been through. Zeke jokingly offers to train him if he's that curious, but Aegis shuts that down, saying they can talk after the match. Our dude finally goes on the offensive with a punch, which Aegis manages to block. Upon impact, his opponent feels a surge of power that definitely doesn't belong to a 2-star. Zeke shifts his breathing pattern to throw him off, but Aegis adapts so fast it actually exceeds Zeke's expectations. Aegis concludes that since Zeke is finally attacking, he must have finished observing his martial arts, which he confirms with a smirk. Then the North Prodigy leaps into the air to strike again. Just as Zeke prepares to comment that the pattern is the same as before, he's caught off guard. His opponent reveals a new trick which is After Image Shadow. The move actually connects, cutting Zeke across the chest. He steps back, momentarily stunned to be wounded, while Aegis darkly asks if he should show him even more. Instead of being worried, our crazy hero just grins, because for him, the match is finally getting interesting. Meanwhile, Sandy regains consciousness, and for a second, she doesn't quite grasp where she is. Her companions rush over immediately. She starts to apologize for losing, but they cut her off, apologizing instead for holding her back. She admits their opponent is incredibly strong and encourages them to just give it their best next time. When she asks if the match between the West and South has begun, her friends startle her by informing that the current trail between North and East is still going on. and it's getting intense. Looking toward the arena, Sandy is startled to see her leader using his 5-shadow aura blade, meaning he is fighting at full power. She is left speechless, remembering Laika's warning that Zeke is actually the strongest among them. Aegis is in the thick of it, swinging constantly with his 5 shadow blades, but Zeke dodges every single move. Aegis is genuinely curious about what kind of body he has. Even after all this fighting, the guy isn't even out of breath. Zeke explains that it's all down to his grueling stamina training. While martial arts are important, he believes the fundamentals are the real backbone of a fighter. This convinces his opponent to train his own body even harder from now on. As he prepares for his next move, Zeke observes his opponent. He notes the sharpness of the blade, the hardness, the speed, and the effective range. Combined with Aegis's performance, it's still only upper-low tier, but he sees the potential for him to become formidable in the future. The exchange makes him realize the massive gap between 1,000 years ago and the present. Back then, martial arts lay in the act of the attack itself. The true essence of combat was the expression and creation through a single technique, with ether playing a supporting role. In the modern era, ether can be materialized and expressed in all things. In other words, mastery of ether is the very essence of modern martial arts. Zeke leaps away from Aegis's next move. He is overflowing with excitement because he is perfectly countering everything his opponent throws at him. He is so focused on observing the techniques that he moves almost instinctively. To him, seeing how much has changed over a millennium is fascinating. At this point, Aegis also realizes our dude's power is well beyond human. Meanwhile, Langus is tensing up because the match has been going on for 2 hours. Laika admits that both of them are freaks of nature, but she thinks the end is finally near. Aegis asks if he has been observing his every move, which he confirms, adding how much he is enjoying himself. His opponent feels the same. Burning through the last of his power, he offers to show off his newest technique. Sweating and exhausted, Aegis admits he might not win, but he is going to go out swinging with his 5-blade ultimate sword. In an instant, our MC reveals a trick of his own. He unleashes dozens of fiery fists, the Dragon Extinction combat art, second form. The shockwaves are so powerful they catch the other candidate standing nearby, forcing his team to jump into a defensive stance. Sandy is once again blown away by this overwhelming display of power. Aegis's sword is broken, and he is lying on the ground, tired as hell but wearing a happy smile. He admits that he still has a long way to go with his training. Our boy stands victorious as the winner for the West Wing. The crowd is in total awe, watching Zeke stand tall after taking down someone as elite as Aegis. Since the arena is a total wreck, the match between the West and South will continue once the place is restored. His companions admire the victory while Laika taunts him, saying he lived up to his monster nickname by destroying the place again. Zeke reminds her not to talk like that since they secured the win. Then they start discussing the upcoming West versus South match. Zeke knows Vanille is good, but he hopes the representative from the South is strong enough to make it interesting. He is wrong though. The match turns out to be a total blowout, ending in a miserable defeat for the South. The bonus chapter. After the adrenaline fades, Zeke nervously admits he overdid it by trash the arena. He assumes it'll take ages to fix, but Langus points out that the entire venue is built from a rare stone called Aetherlight. By infusing it with ether, the stone can restore itself to its original form. Zeke is truly in awe of such a magnificent material. Now the match ends. Mentrix still senses something is off. Even for a top-tier contender, Lila Sonarl isn't the type to go down in such a one-sided blowout. Still, with the crowd waiting and no evidence of foul play, he has no choice but to declare West Hall the winners, setting the stage for them to face East Hall in just 1 hour. Over at North Hall, the atmosphere is thick with panic. Laika stares at the floor, unable to wrap her head around Lila's total collapse. Zeke shares her suspicion, noting that the gap in raw strength between the two fighters simply wasn't wide enough to justify that kind of slaughter. To his keen eyes, something was fundamentally wrong. Lila's internal power flow looked sluggish and broken, almost as if she was fighting through sludge. He notices the referee's expression and realizes he isn't the only one who smells a rat. His companions break into a heated debate. While Vanille is the head candidate, the sheer ease of his victory leaves a bitter taste in everyone's mouth. Celine points out how unnervingly fast it was, but Merlin shrugs, noting that this is their first real look at the other hall's heavy hitters. Rick adds that Vanille is supposedly on the same level as Zeke and Laika, which prompts Langus to chime in that the entire West Hall team is packed with formidable opponents. Hearing this, both seniors feel a fresh sting of regret over their earlier losses, yet Zeke sees their eyes light up with a newfound determination to win next time. He is proud of their fighting spirit, but his gaze soon drifts back to Laika. The fact that she couldn't sense the disturbance in Lila's ether has clearly left her rattled. He wants to help, but without knowing exactly what Vanille is pulling, he keeps his distance for now. Langus tries to reach out to her, but she brushes him off and walks away to find some solitude. After a while, she sits by a fountain, the sound of splashing water masking her dark thoughts. She knows Lila better than most. Lila wouldn't even let someone like Aegis walk away without a scratch, let alone Vanille. The easy victory stinks of a setup. Her mind drifts back to her childhood, remembering the day Veniel crushed her when she was only 5. She wants to avenge that humiliation, but as she realizes Zeke is the one who will face him next, a wave of relief washes over her. She hates herself for this feeling, as it feels exactly like admitting defeat. The moment is interrupted when Veniel strolls up with his entourage, mocking her sour expression. He doesn't waste time with pleasantries, immediately reminding her of the possibility that she might end up as his wife if he claims the position of head. Leica snaps back, asserting that she is the one destined to lead, but the fire in her voice is flickering. The older candidate just laughs softly and whispers in her ear, reminding her of how easily he handled Lila, and claiming that even she knows she is outmatched. His hand grips her shoulder, his tone turning dark as he warns her to give up and submit now so he will treat her kindly later. With a snarl of disgust, she jerks away and bolts from the area. Once she is gone, Veniel turns to his aide to ensure their plan is still in motion, specifically their strategy for handling Zeke during the finals. Alan suggests they strike early, especially now that our boy has proven himself by taking down Aegis. Veniel agrees, though he admits Zeke is sharp, perhaps sharp enough to notice a trap. He notices that our boy was intentionally taking hits during the earlier match with Aegis. That's why they should take advantage of his recklessness. He is determined not to let an illegitimate brother take his spotlight, and as far as he is concerned, the victory is already his. After an hour, the match between the East and West Wings finally begins, and following the team's pattern, Rick steps up first. Beside him, Merlin is lost in thought, realizing that even though they are the seniors, they feel like the weakest links in the East Hall compared to the giants of power representing the West. The sheer intimidation factor terrifies him, leaving him doubting if a win is even possible. These dark thoughts are abruptly interrupted when Zeke clobbers him over the head for overthinking and letting his fighting spirit wither. He points out that at this rate, he is essentially fighting to lose. He urges him to aim for victory regardless of the opponent's strength and to have complete confidence in the training they have undergone. Once Rick's spirit begins to lift, Zeke tells him to relax his shoulders. He explains that the great strength fist art requires power to be gathered into a single point. If his body is this tense, that power will simply scatter. With this final piece of advice to keep calm, Rick exclaims that he actually feels like he can win. As their senior heads toward the arena, Leica comments on how strange it is for our boy to know so much about the great strength fist art and every other martial art despite never receiving formal education. Zeke answers with his usual arrogance, claiming the question is foolish because he knows these things simply because he is who he is. His response makes her regret asking in the first place. In the arena, Rick faces an opponent who has already proven to be an insanely strong fighter, but this time, Rick is determined. His opponent looks down at him, mocking his arrogance and reminding him of his previous loss. He confidently replies that he isn't the same person he was before, which only prompts a mocking grin from the other side. Next moment, Mentric announces the start of the match. The opponent charges immediately, expressing total disbelief that Rick could have improved in just a few hours. He strikes with the Battle Mantis dagger art, utilizing a mantis slash technique. He blocks the blow by crossing his arms and reinforcing them with aura. Seeing this, his opponent taunts him, claiming he won't be able to block what comes next. A strike called the Devouring Swarm follows, hitting Rick hard enough to make him cry out in pain. His opponent jeers again, reminding him that he had claimed to have changed. Rick admits to himself that this fighter is incredibly tough, but he refuses to give up. He tries to land a punch, but his opponent deflects it with ease, confident that Rick can't touch him. Realizing he can't catch the man with speed, Rick ponders his next move and recalls his idol's words about relaxing the body to focus power. Wiping his mouth with determination, Rick decides his next attack will be all or nothing. His opponent readies a piercing B-flash, calling Rick a persistent weakling. However, Rick surprises everyone by grabbing the blade head-on to force his opponent to stay still. With his target locked, he prepares his fist. The next moment, he unleashes the Great Strength Fist Art, Great Strength Punch. The impact is massive, enough to knock his opponent clean away. Shock fills the arena as the match is called, and the East Wing is announced as the winner. Rick cheers in delight while his opponent stares up in disbelief at his loss. When the defeated boy approaches Veniel, he is heartlessly kicked away. Veniel turns darkly to his remaining subordinates, reminding them that they need to crush their opponents, a command they answer immediately. The second match starts right away, featuring Merlin against one of Veniel's minions. Merlin opens with the Red Flame sword art, Spark Slash, but her opponent deflects the strike with his spear. He counters with the Great Chaos Spear art, Piercing Barrage, a move that leaves her coughing as the attack connects. He doesn't give her a second to breathe, continuing a brutal, relentless assault. Merlin's friends turn pale as they watch the brutality being visited upon their teammate. Raymond has to hold Rick back, reminding him that any interference will lead to a disqualification. Ultimately, the match ends with Merlin's defeat, securing a win for the West Wing. Rick rushes to her side, calling her name in a panic. Our boy watches the scene with a heavy, serious expression, listening to the desperate cries of his classmate. The situation with Merlin is dire. She remains unconscious despite the frantic cries of her friends. Zeke watches the scene in silence, his expression hardening into something cold and serious. While he is brooding, his friends notice her opponent walks past. Rick demands an answer, asking why he had to go so far. The boy answers nonchalantly, stating that it was a combat match and he simply did what was necessary to secure the win. When the group protests that such brutality wasn't required, the fighter scoffs, calling them naive for thinking the West Hall would ever show mercy to an opponent. Leica steps forward, guessing that this cruelty is an explicit order from their boss. The boy doesn't deny it, telling her she should forfeit if she can't handle the heat. He points out that even Mentric didn't stop the match because this is how things are done. Merlin showed her fighting spirit, and he simply crushed it. Before Leica can retort, he turns away, dismissing them as noisy and warning them to worry about their own safety, as they are all going to end up just like her. Next, Retin appears as Langus's upcoming opponent, immediately pressuring him to forfeit. When the timid boy utters his name, his bully snaps at him not to speak so casually, asking if he plans to surrender or if he wants to be broken like Merlin. He threatens to treat Langus exactly the way he did back at their village. Leica is ready to protest, but Langus stands tall, challenging his bully and vowing to surpass him, a move that leaves him scowling. As the timid boy steps into the arena, Zeke's voice echoes in his head, making him shiver. Our hero consoles him, revealing that he has recreated a specific technique based on an experience from years ago. Before the fight begins, Zeke offers some cryptic advice, telling him that even clouds drift freely and water flows endlessly. He is totally confused, but Zeke instructs him to try and imagine those images if he hits a wall during the fight. Mentric notices Langus standing frozen in place and calls out to wake him up. He snaps out of it with a quick apology and gets into his stance. The match begins, and Langus opens with the Cloud Water Spear technique, thrusting his weapon forward with Water Pierce. His bully deflects the move with his sword, and counters with the Serpent Assault Sword technique, unleashing a Strike Piercer. Langus manages to block the attack, but the bully strikes again, taunting him for acting tough despite his lack of strength. This time a Serpent Slash connects. Even though he tries to block, the strike curves around his defense and hits him. Retin jeers at him to try and block the next one as he presses the advantage. He retaliates with flowing clouds running water, a stream of power flowing from his spear, but his opponent stops it cold with his blade. With a surge of power, Retin shoves him back. Everyone watches in worry as their timid friend stumbles, only barely stopping himself from falling. He realizes his plan to block and counter is failing because Retin is cleverly using Langus's own momentum against him. The situation takes a turn for the worse as his opponent not only realizes his strategy, but proves himself to be a specialist in counterattacks. He mocks Langus, claiming the skill gap between them is simply too wide to bridge. The bully grabs him roughly, snarling that he is delusional to think a child of the Mock Dragon could ever be strong. In his eyes, he is just trash, exactly like his father. Langus shouts at him to keep his father's name out of his mouth, but this bully simply slaps him aside. He scoffs that Langus can never be the real thing and will never defeat someone of his caliber. Retin's words shatter the poor boy's spirit. He sinks into despair, believing he was wrong to think he could ever be strong, that in the end, he is nothing more than a fake dragon. As a tear falls, a memory surfaces from a time he spent fishing with his father. He remembers telling his father how much he enjoyed fishing, and his father replied that he too loved to watch the clouds while waiting for a catch. At that moment, his father had quoted the same words Zeke used, that clouds drift calmly while river water flows endlessly. He explained that watching the clouds makes one realize how small human worries truly are. At the time, Langus didn't understand the depth of those words, but his father assured him that one day he would. While Langus teeters on the edge of unconsciousness, Mentric watches in stunned silence. His cruel opponent doesn't wait for a recovery. He hoists Langus up by his uniform, taunting him for being a failure just like his father. But as the thoughts of clouds and water echo in his mind, Langus's spirit surges back to life. He snaps into action, blocking Retin's next strike and shoving the bully back with unexpected force. A smile spreads across Mentric's face as he witnesses the transformation. Langus has officially awakened his third star. Even after witnessing his former prey reach the 3-star rank, Retin refuses to believe they are equals. Readying his sword, he shouts his denial while throwing a meandering slash at Langus. The petite boy watches closely, dodging the attack with pure reflex. Retin can't believe he actually hit Langus earlier and wonders how his opponent is seeing through his attacks now, something he deemed impossible. He attacks again with the chaotic serpent swarm, his ether rushing at Langus from both sides, but he keeps moving forward. Meanwhile, watching the match, our boy informs Leica that Langus has reached a step closer to his essence. This confuses her. He explains that Langus's affinity is cloud and water. No matter what, water never stops. It's flexible, yet it swallows every life force it encounters. Zeke had already displayed this essence in his previous fight, but now Langus is truly mastering it. Leica can't believe he's done this in such a short time, but he interjects, noting that Langus might not even realize it himself because his concentration is so remarkable. Retin is truly intimidated now. He attacks again, desperate to create distance between them, but Langus steps ahead and knocks the sword away with a spear deflection. Zeke grins because he knows that water isn't just supposed to flow gently. Langus gathers all his power, creates a violent water attack, and strikes, pushing his opponent back and knocking him down. When Mentric announces that the East Wing wins, Langus can't believe it. It seems he was doing all of this on instinct, and he suddenly wakes up. Laika immediately rushes over to congratulate him on his 3 stars, but he's still dazed. Suddenly, everything clicks, and he lets out a shout of joy. His friends praise his fighting, but he's still processing the fact that he actually won against the bully. Rick is dying to know about that amazing last move. Laika praises it too, saying it looked like a water dragon ascending a waterfall, which Raymond thinks is cool. Poor boy is so out of it that he didn't even realize he used a specific technique. Our hero interjects, explaining that the move was the Rising Dragon Piercer, a technique recorded in the 2nd volume of the Cloud Water Spear style. He comments that even though Langus has only read the 1st volume, he's getting the hang of advanced techniques on his own. His sister is curious how he knows about it. Zeke can't exactly say he created the technique, so he makes an excuse that he caught a glimpse of it during his time in the library. Reaching that level through self-study is an amazing feat. In reality, Zeke, as Gilphus, never actually wrote this technique in the book. It's likely his descendants split the technique into volumes and stored them in upper-level storage to keep them away from inexperienced kids. However, his timid friend was able to carve the path of the hidden essence on his own, which makes him amazed to see such young talent. Mentric reminds them they've been chatting for too long. Celine apologizes, as it's finally her turn. The morale of the East Wing students has peaked after Langus's victory, but the West Wing has become more berserk, resulting in Celine's defeat in the next match. However, in the 5th match, Raymond shows his grit and wins. Now the contest moves into its latter half. Celine regrets her loss, thinking they could have secured the overall win already. Laika consoles her, pointing out they still have 3 wins, which puts victory within reach. Once she wins her match, they'll be the victors. When our boy asks about her well-being, she reminds him she's fine, though she points out that he's standing a bit too close. She then assures him she will win, but as she heads toward the arena, Zeke senses something uneasy. The loser from the West Wing gets a warm welcome, a hard kick from Alan, who sneers that they're nothing but a useless pawn in his boss's game. Once he's finished venting his frustration on his fallen comrade, Alan boasts that winning this match will swing everything in their favor. Hearing this, Laika steps up, claiming the victory for herself. With that, the match between the East Hall and West Hall begins. Both opponents draw their blades. Our heiress immediately leaps into the air, aiming for the first strike. Alan is visibly nervous at first. He knows she's the girl who surpassed someone as strong as Sandy, so he grips his sword tight, ready for anything. Their blades clash violently before both fighters spring back, creating distance to reset their positions. Alan knows deep down he could lose this match. However, his boss has already rigged the game, poisoning Laika to ensure the odds are in his favor. The trick finally starts to kick in. The blonde freezes, realizing something is horribly wrong with her body. Capitalizing on the moment, her opponent swings his sword high, shouting that she doesn't stand a chance. Laika manages to block the strike, but her weakened body can't withstand the raw power behind his blow. She struggles to hold her ground, and Alan seizes the opening to kick her back. Her companions watch from the sidelines, hearts sinking with worry. The blonde heiress realizes that she can't tap into her lightning, but she doesn't understand why. Sensing her vulnerability, Alan taunts her, repeating that she can't change the outcome of this fight. He then launches into a relentless, merciless assault. As she takes hit after hit, the situation turns dire. Because she hasn't just lost her lightning, she's lost her ether as well. Since ether is deeply bonded to a warrior's physical form, every strike Alan lands is now life-threatening. Without her ether to shield her, she's defenseless. Her opponent attacks again, and Laika grows desperate just trying to survive. Watching the match, even the northern students sense something is off. Aegis is the first to notice that her ether has completely vanished. Laika eventually falls to her knees, covered in injuries, coughing up blood and gasping for air. Even her opponent has to inwardly admit her endurance is incredible. Surviving this much punishment proves she truly is a worthy candidate for the head of the house. The very next moment, he looks toward his boss, who gives a dark signal to finish it. Alan prepares for the final, lethal strike. Seeing this, Lanxus tries to intervene, but Raymond holds him back. Our protagonist is also ready, his ether surging as he prepares to jump in. But they don't need to because Sandy suddenly appears, blocking Alan's strike with her own blade. Zeke lets out a massive sigh of relief at the sight. Alan screams at her for interfering in the match, but Sandy tells him to shut his mouth. She knows exactly what he was trying to do. He wasn't just trying to win, he was trying to kill her cousin. A stunned silence echoes through the hall at Sandy's claim. Alan outrageously denies the accusation, but even Aegis intervenes, pointing out that the final strike was clearly intended to be fatal. As they argue, the Northern representative warns Alan that if he wants to avoid being accused, he needs to be a lot more careful with his words and actions. After all, Laika couldn't use her ether, making that last attack even more lethal. Next moment, Venel also joins in, scoffing that they are the ones interfering. He complains that they're only whining about methods because the girl was too weak to keep up. To the West Hall, this is a real battle. They don't care about their opponent's condition, they only care about crushing them completely. Sandy protests, snapping that there should be limits since this isn't a life-or-death duel. Vanille just scoffs at her, calling her statement soft and claiming that's exactly why she lost. For them, every fight is the real deal. However, he jokes that even they know when to hold back, claiming they never actually intended to kill her. Sandy's body crackles with lightning at his audacity, but before she can move, Mentric steps forward. His dark aura suddenly surrounds everyone as he asks, with a deadpan expression, who exactly gave them permission for all this idle chatter. When Sandy tries to defend her cousin, he silences her, coldly stating that he is the one who determines the match results, and they don't have right to be there, let alone protest. His words carry enough weight that Aegis immediately apologizes. Mentric then officially announces the West Hall as the victor, and clears everyone from the ground except for the participants of the next match. Scooping Laika up, Aegis asks his classmate to grab her sword. The next moment, our crew rush over, frantic with worry, but Aegis calms them down as he's already given her a healing potion and is heading straight to the medical office so she can recover. Zeke apologizes for the trouble, but Aegis already knows, if Sandy hadn't stepped in, Zeke was going to do the exact same thing. Zeke doesn't deny it. Sandy then brings up the elephant in the room. Vanille's side might be getting stronger, but they aren't strong enough to overwhelm her cousin in a one-sided battle like that. Her classmates agree, noting that this match followed the same suspicious pattern as Vanille's fight against Lila. Before heading out, Aegis warns our boy to stay alert and watch out for the West's dirty tricks. He appreciates the concern and turns to face his new opponent. Vanille is cocky as ever, claiming himself as the absolute victor of this match. Our boy doesn't even grace him with an answer, which makes his opponent scowl at the perceived disrespect. The match begins. Vanille opens his mouth to teach our boy a lesson and wipe that arrogant look off his face, but he doesn't get the chance to finish. His words are muffled by a sudden explosive punch directly to his face. Vanille is thrown back so easily it leaves the entire audience, including the captain, stunned. Our boy just scoffs, mocking how Vanille talked so big about real combat only to let his guard down instantly. He extends a hand, challenging his enemy to show him that real combat he loves so much. Before the match even begins, our guy warned his opponent that he's treating this like a real-life battle, hoping Vanille won't regret his own words later. His cocky opponent, confused by the sudden shift in energy, retorts that it's the hero who's going to regret stepping into the ring. As they square up, our boy makes it clear, they'll see soon enough who's left standing. Now, as Vanille is sent reeling toward the edge of the arena, his lackey shouts his name in shock, unable to believe their boss was just knocked away so easily. Vanille stares at our protagonist, reeling from the fact that the boy is completely unscathed, even though Vanille had boosted his countermeasures to the absolute maximum. Our boy remains calm, his eyes tracking Vanille's movements. He concludes that Vanille is a wind element user, likely hailing from one of the great houses that specializes in wind element. His half-brother, however, is seething with fury, but our hero just taunts him, asking how it feels to finally taste the real battle he was so busy preaching about. He throws another insult at his arrogant half-brother that he is mindful of his power level while attacking. In a burst of rage, Vanille is about to say something, but with swift motion, our boy appears behind him to strike from his blind spot. But this time, the cheater actually manages to brace himself. Still, his eyes widen in confusion. He can't wrap his head around how someone like him is being handled so effortlessly. Before he can even process the thought, Zeke appears right in front of him. He mocks Vanille, telling him that getting lost in thought is a rookie mistake in a real fight, before burying a fist deep into Vanille's gut. Coughing up blood, Vanille falls to his knees. Our boy looks down at him with a deadpan expression, coldly stating that he could have killed him 3 times over by now. First, with the strike to the face, then, a blow to the neck, and finally, he could have easily stopped Vanille's heart. If this were actually the real battle Vanille wanted, he'd be dead meat. Our dude is just being gracious enough to hold back. Before the poor Western boss can even wrap his head around what's happening, our boy delivers a sharp kick to his chin, coldly announcing that break time is over. It's time for Vanille to get a real taste of battle. The Northern elites are taken aback by the display. Even Aegis has to admit that his previous match with Zeke was just a friendly spar. In a real fight, the boy is a ruthless monster. As his opponent groans in pain and struggles to stand, Zeke reminds him how stupid the West Hall guys are. They think real battle means crushing enemies while instructors are watching and healing potions are standing by. To Zeke, they don't have the slightest clue what a life-or-death struggle actually looks like. Vanille weakly tries to shut him up, but Zeke continues, pointing out that they're just masking their own weaknesses with cruelty. Driven to a boiling rage, Vanille screams at him to be quiet. His ether begins to swirl around him violently, leaving the audience tense, wondering what he'll pull next. Vanille sneers, calling Zeke nothing but a lowly brat who dares to preach to him. Despite the furious ether surging toward him, Zeke remains calm. He looks at his opponent as if he's just a child having a rebellious fit, openly challenging him to go ahead and vent his frustration on him. Infuriated, Vanille shouts at him to stop acting like a know-it-all. He unleashes his technique, Stormblade. A massive ether storm erupts, threatening to crush Zeke where he stands, but Zeke leaps gracefully into the air, easily avoiding the disaster. On the other hand, his enemy needs a single touch to use his trick on our boy. Meanwhile, the audience is struggling to even see the match. That's because Vanille is using the Fafnir family's wind aura, which makes his attacks almost invisible to the naked eye. Sandy remarks that such a sneaky power perfectly suits the Fafnir family, earning a light reprimand from her friend, though even he admits the barrage of invisible attacks is a dirty trick. Lanxus watches from the sidelines, visibly worried for his friend. Vanille is growing increasingly frustrated that he hasn't landed a single hit. Zeke just goads him further, telling him he's just going with the flow. Not in the mood for a lecture, the angry boy leaves an opening, and Zeke promptly cracks him over the head. Vanille tries to retaliate again and again, but every time, Zeke slips right past the wind blades with a cool head. Like a wise old man dealing with a brat, Zeke asks if he's finally satisfied. This pushes Vanille over the edge. He screams that he's going to kill him for mocking him. As Vanille lunges forward for one last strike, Zeke settles into a stance, his fist ready. He's already predicted the trajectory. His opponent's body has reached its absolute limit. He wisely advises Vanille to throw in the towel before things get even uglier. However, the sneaky snake has already found an opening as he manages to grab Zeke's ankle, transferring the same ether-blocking poison into his system. Zeke stops mid-sentence, catching the sudden, menacing glint in his opponent's eyes. With an evil smirk, Vanille declares that Zeke is finished. At first, our boy doesn't realize exactly what just happened, but Vanille doesn't waste a second and unleashes a barrage of gale bullets, forcing Zeke to brace himself against the onslaught. From the sidelines, his friends watch with bated breath. Aegis is the first to notice a subtle shift in Zeke's body aura. Suddenly, Leica appears, supported by Merlin, commenting on Aegis's sharp intuition. Everyone is shocked to see her out of the infirmary so soon, but she reassures them that she's fine for now. Raymond asks the burning question, does she know what's happening to Zeke, judging by she has experienced the same thing? Leica can't say for certain, but she suspects it's the exact same phenomenon she experienced. The sudden, total inability to use ether. Looking back, she realizes this likely happened to Lila during her match against Vanille as well. The crew panics at the thought of Zeke being stripped of his ether power. Vanille, meanwhile, is feeling himself. He's ready to make Zeke pay for his defiance and for looking down on him. With a violent snap of his blade fan, he activates his first secret art, Hurricane Dust. A massive, swirling storm of wind ether erupts, swallowing the arena. He directs the full force of the cyclone toward our hero, certain this will be the killing blow. Langus screams Zeke's name in terror. But to everyone's absolute shock, Zeke doesn't just withstand the attack. He lunges through the storm and punches Vanille clear across the arena. Wiping blood from his mouth, Vanille stares back in disbelief while wondering how could his attack have no effect. While the rest of the audience stands stunned, Leica just watches with a knowing look. She knows better than anyone. Being unable to use ether won't make a bit of difference to a powerhouse like Zeke. Meanwhile, looking at the substance he's starting to detoxify, Zeke recognizes it as a poison. Vanille grits his teeth because his poison is supposed to be undetectable. However, our hero turns to his opponent and actually praises his talent for using a toxin that blocks the ether of others. That's exactly why Vanille won his previous matches so one-sidedly. Not to mention, the fact that this poison remained undetected even by someone like our boy until it entered his own system proves Vanille's genuine talent. The Western leader seriously wants to know how Zeke was able to strike him even when his ether is blocked. At that, Zeke boasts that such a minion poison is meaningless against his might, even if his ether is sealed away. Vanille clenches his fist in a rage, hearing his life's work dismissed as meaningless. Little does Zeke know, Vanille is the one who created it. Zeke offers a genuine compliment, noting how exceptional it is that Vanille created a poison with such specific properties. He points out the brilliance in its design. The toxin remains completely harmless to Vanille's own body even as it flows through his ether, yet it is perfectly engineered to suppress the ether of anyone else it touches. He loudly declares that the poison won't have any effect on him, making his opponent realize he has already detoxified himself. Zeke continues his lecture, telling Vanille he shouldn't need to depend on poison regardless of how good it is, which catches Vanille off guard. Our boy is ready to end this match now, but his half-brother grits his teeth, thinking about all the crap he went through to get this poison. He remembers being raised in a cutthroat competitive world where he was pressured to become the next head. If he didn't, he would have no value. People always compared him to his siblings. Even the younger one, Laika, had more martial arts potential than him. Even his mother scolded him for his lack of talent. In those dark days, he found his own niche, poison making. He used his poisons to chase the head seat just to get his mother's acknowledgement. Angrily, he attacks Zeke, screaming about what he could possibly know about his struggle of being constantly compared to genius candidates. He rushes forward, intending to strike, but Zeke grabs his hand mid-attack. Zeke's grip is so tight it forces Vanille to drop his weapon. Everyone is astonished, wondering what he is planning to do next. Vanille is still stuck in the belief that no matter the method, even using poison, he has to win. Since he lacks true combat talent, he doubles down on his toxins. He pulls out a poison needle loaded with a special, highly toxic blend. It's so lethal that even he, the creator, can't fully detoxify it. He doesn't even care if he inhales some of the smoke as long as he claims victory. But his thoughts are interrupted when he sees Zeke holding the same needle, asking if this is his last move. Vanille is so freaked out that he falls back in shock. He can't believe what kind of person he's up against. Our guy steps forward, grabs him by the shoulder, and tries to make him understand that he's misunderstood what it means to be a martial artist. Whether he has talent or he can block ether doesn't matter as much as the thirst to win. At least, that's what Zeke thought. Besides, he tells him he was wrong to say he had no talent in martial arts. In reality, he just chose the wrong weapon. For a guy like him, he needs something with a longer handle, like an umbrella. Vanille is totally baffled. Zeke emphasizes that throughout history, things like fans and umbrellas have been used as weapons. Anything can be a tool of war. His half-brother is too shocked to speak, as Zeke lectures him on finding a specialty that actually suits him. Our boy tells him to stop lamenting his lack of talent if he truly wants to be a warrior. He was right to think that anything goes on a battlefield to win and protect comrades. His way of thinking isn't wrong, he's just applying it in the wrong place. To his half-brother's absolute astonishment, Zeke offers his hand, offering to mentor him and make him strong. Vanille is in disbelief, but Zeke reminds him that he's already stronger than him, which is proof enough of his expertise. Seeing Vanille hesitate, Zeke assures him that under his guidance, he will forge him in a way that he won't have time to whine about his lack of talent. But his half-brother is still a bit hesitant, thinking it sounds too good to be true, but his desire to be strong wins out. He reaches up to take his brother's hand. However, before their hands can meet, Zeke remembers they're still in the middle of a match. He punches the life out of Vanille to officially end the fight. His opponent can join him after the match is over. The captain declares the match over, having noticed how Zeke detoxified that poison in a split second. He announces the East Wing as the winner, and Zeke's comrades cheer loudly. Even the northern elites are happy to see him victorious. Now that the selection matches are concluded, a great feast is held. Afterward, everyone gathers for an official briefing and a big feast. The man in charge doesn't beat around the bush. He immediately starts explaining the special mission they need to fulfill. It wasn't just the East Wing present. Participants from the other wings were also gathered for the meal. Before the captain arrived, the room was thick with tension. Everyone was dying of curiosity, wondering why all the wings had been invited and waiting anxiously for an explanation. In the middle of this high-pressure situation, only one person remained completely unfazed. Our hero. Zeke was eating like he'd been starving for weeks, even urging his comrades to dig in before the food got cold. His lack of concern earned him a worried remark from the blonde heiress, who asked how he could possibly eat when he should be worried about the kind of task they were about to be assigned. Just then, the official walked in. Noticing our boy had already started, he ushered everyone else to follow suit, explaining that the feast was a reward for the hard work they'd put in during the matches. Once everyone settled, the captain prepared to explain the mission. Edges spoke up, questioning whether they were even eligible to hear the details. Mentric reassured him, noting that it was fine because there was a high chance they would be participating in the mission as well. Mentric begins to explain the discovery of a special rift within Eldragon territory. This sparks a memory for Zeke. He recalls reading about these phenomena in the books back at the library. Mentric continues, explaining that while they might know the basics of rifts, this one is different. It can't be conquered through normal means. When Laika asks for clarification, Mentric explains the rift's specific restrictions. Only those at the 3-star rank or below can enter. Anyone at 4 stars or higher is forcibly rejected by the rift's barrier. This condition is so absolute that not even the family heads can step inside. While the Eldragon family has plenty of 3-star soldiers, they are currently short-staffed due to a recent surge in rift appearances across their lands. That's why the responsibility has fallen onto the students. Then, he drops the most important detail. There is a high chance this rift contains magic water, the essential substance needed to awaken mana. The room goes silent with shock. Zeke, eyes wide, asks for confirmation on what the water does. Mentric confirms it. The water can convert ether into mana, making a person capable of using true magic. Zeke's eyes practically turn into stars at the thought. Mentric adds that of the 8 great families, 7 possess a magic spring, except for the Eldragon family. This mission isn't just a task, it's the most vital mission in the family's history. Therefore, failure is not an option. However, there's a catch. The rift is located near the border of the Cerberus family, who will undoubtedly try to claim it as well. This explains why the selection matches were so intense. They needed the most capable 7 3-star warriors. Aegis assumes that since the East Wing won, they'll simply take the prize, but Mentric shocks everyone again. Any of the participants can be chosen as one of the 7 candidates. That's why the matches weren't just for winning, they were held so everyone could see each other's strengths and martial styles to build a balanced team. Mentric then turns to Zeke, giving him the right to choose the members of this team. When Zeke looks surprised, Mentric reminds him that as the representative of the winning East Wing, it's his duty. Zeke, who never actually asked to be a leader, immediately passes the buck to Laika. She's hesitant, but Zeke gives her an ultimatum. If she doesn't choose, he'll pick for her, and he will choose only himself. Knowing Zeke's unpredictable nature, Laika annoyingly realizes she'd better do it herself. Zeke points out that as a head candidate, this is good practice for her to use her insight and judge people's worth. Mentric pulls Zeke aside, asking if he's sure about handing this power to Laika, especially since leading a successful mission like this would practically guarantee Zeke the seat of family head. Zeke just shrugs. To everyone's utter astonishment, he announces he has zero intention of becoming the family head. When they stare at him like he's grown a second head, he explains that his personal business, attaining the pinnacle of martial arts, is far more valuable to him than a political seat. As Laika begins forming the team, the scene shifts. Over at the Cerberus family, the head receives news about the special rift. He's furious, calling the Eldragon family lizards, and screaming at his subordinates for the late report. His man explains they were misled by Eldragon's decoys. The Cerberus head realizes that if the Eldragons are moving into the forest, there must be something massive inside the rift, and his subordinates confirm the rumors of magic water. He asks about the entry conditions. When he hears it's limited to 7 people at 3 stars or lower, he grins. He sees through the Eldragon plan to hog all the slots. His interest peaks when he learns the Eldragons are so short on veteran soldiers that they are sending students, including, most likely, their heirs. He asks how many bracelets of deception they have in storage. When told they have 4, he orders them to use every single one to wipe out the Eldragon heir. His subordinate hesitates, noting the bracelets are rare and hard to replace, but the head doesn't care. To him, they are just rotting in storage. He wants them used to butcher the Eldragon children. A dark, twisted grin breaks across his face as he imagines the look on the Balls' face when his own children are sent back in pieces. Back at the academy, Laika finishes selecting the team of 7 for the mission. Before they depart, Zeke stands before his comrades to deliver their final training instructions. He starts with Rick and Merlin, informing them that they must focus on basic physical conditioning. They are to run every day and build pure muscle to solidify their foundation, as this will allow them to handle far more powerful martial arts in the future. The 2 seniors are energized by the directive and immediately commit to the task. For Raymond, Zeke has acquired a regeneration stone. This stone possesses the unique ability to reflect any impact it receives 100 times over and cannot be broken by ether. To demonstrate its power, Zeke punches the stone without using any ether. The spectators watch in awe as he effortlessly blocks the massive recoil with his shield. He instructs Raymond to block the reflected impact head-on to sharpen his parrying skills. Celine admits that she never considered using a regeneration stone for such a purpose. Next, Zeke turns to Celine. He tells her to strike the stone repeatedly with her sword while utilizing her ether. He demands that she focus her power on a single point rather than letting the force of her strike scatter. When her initial attempts fail to hit with precision, Zeke reminds her that focusing one's entire strength on a tiny point is much harder than it sounds. He takes a sword and demonstrates a perfect pinpoint strike, leaving Celine amazed by his skill. He explains that while her Fuka swordsmanship relies on a high volume of attacks, she must learn to value the precision of every individual blow. Finally, Zeke approaches Langus. His friend looks nervous about the upcoming lesson, but Zeke simply presents him with a feather. Using the wind technique he observed during his fight with Vanille, Zeke makes the feather dance through the air. The others are stunned that he managed to replicate a specific chi technique just by experiencing it as an opponent. Zeke raises a spear and swings it, telling Langus that he must train by surrendering himself to the flow. Langus is hesitant, noting that a feather is almost too light to control. Zeke clarifies that the goal is not to chase the movement, but to become one with it. While controlling the feather with his wind energy, Zeke explains that once Langis masters the art of surrendering to the flow, he will be able to create that flow himself. The blonde princess arrives to interrupt, warning the group that they must deploy immediately to stay on schedule. Looking at his friend's back, Langus still feels uncertain about his abilities, but his classmates encourage him to simply give it his all. As they move out, Zeke remarks on how interesting this group has become. Laika confidently declares that they have formed the best team possible. Waiting for them is Aegis, completing the specialized recovery unit. Sandy, Aegis, Lila, Vanille, and Alan, and Zeke, all under the leadership of Laika. Meanwhile, Mentric informs the family head, Balza, about the departure of the recovery team. News has reached them that the Cerberus family is also aware of the special rift. Balza expected this development, though it arrived sooner than anticipated. Fortunately, his team is already positioned to enter before Cerberus can even organize a response. A subordinate suggests that the Cerberus forces might wait to ambush the team and steal the spoils of war once they exit the rift. He proposes that the selection team waiting near the rift should rendezvous immediately to prevent this. After a brief pause, Balza asks about the actual capabilities of this selection team. Mentric assures him that the group consists of high-ranking 3-star individuals who are more than capable of handling the rift conquest and standing their ground against Cerberus. When Balza mentions that Zeke is only a 2-star warrior, Mentric stuns the room by claiming that Zeke could likely handle the entire situation single-handedly. He adds that out of all of Balza's sons, Zeke is the only one whose true depth remains a mystery. Another subordinate scoffs, pointing out again that Zeke is only at the 2-star rank. The captain admits this is true but argues that for someone like Zeke, stars are just meaningless numbers that fail to predict true strength. Mentric then drops a bombshell. Zeke's martial arts remind him of Balza's own dragon-slaying combat art. Both the subordinates and the head are left speechless. The dragon-slaying style is a closely guarded secret passed down through generations only to the heads of the Eldragon family. It is impossible for any common person to learn. When a colleague asks if he is certain, Mentric confirms that having seen both Balza and Zeke in action, Zeke's skill is already on par with his father's. For a moment, Mentric wonders if there is more to the story, but he dismisses his own wild imagination. Balza then reveals that a few years ago he had Freya investigate Zeke's background. She found nothing to suggest he had any martial arts training before entering the Dragon Nest. This leads the subordinates to conclude that Zeke must have developed these skills entirely on his own. The captain points out a theory they can hardly believe. Perhaps Zeke is a reincarnation of one of the progenitors, or maybe even the 15th generation head. This leaves Balza silent, questioning the true nature of his own son. The two subordinates look to Balza for an answer, but he finds the notion of Zeke being a progenitor's reincarnation completely absurd. He brings the discussion to a close, concluding that if Zeke possesses that level of power, he can certainly handle whatever the Cerberus family throws at him. 1 week later, Freya and her subordinates wait at the edge of the rift. She scans the area for the vice captain, who has vanished yet again. Sighing at his antics, she wonders if more people will arrive, just as the selection team pulls up. She taunts them, suggesting they should have run faster if they wanted to be early. Leica calmly replies that they had no intention of wasting their stamina before the mission even began, then asks why Freya is present. The elder woman explains that she is no longer acting as their teacher. She is there to guard the special domain. Some rifts are so powerful that they bleed into the outside world, forming a dark domain around the entrance. Zeke looks closely at the pitch-black trees within the domain and recognizes the same black mist he felt from the anger boar. He realizes now that the creature's strange behavior was caused by the rift's influence. Freya clarifies her role. She is there to prevent interference from the Cerberus family. If the Eldragons successfully secure the magic water, their strength will skyrocket, something the Cerberus family will surely try to stop. Her job is to handle any monsters pushed out of the domain and keep intruders at bay as well. She then demonstrates the rift's barrier by reaching out. Her hand is instantly rejected. The special rift only allows 7 people of 3-star rank or lower. 4-star monsters and warriors are physically barred from entering. Zeke steps forward and touches the barrier. Hearing that it can't be broken by force makes him want to try it anyway. Seeing his manic expression, Freya reminds him to actually listen to her instructions. He lies, claiming he is listening perfectly. Since the Cerberus family hasn't arrived yet, Freya urges them to enter immediately and wishes them luck. As they enter the domain, a pack of deer-like monsters charges at them. Vanille steps up, swinging his new staff and using wind energy to clear them out in a single sweep. Alan praises his skill. Watching the hunt, Aegis recalls the moment back at the academy when Zeke handed the weapon to his half-brother. At the time, Vanille couldn't believe Zeke was actually serious about helping him grow stronger. When Zeke insisted he use the staff for the upcoming mission, Vanille flew into a rage, insulted that he was being told to use an unfamiliar weapon for such a critical task. He even threw the staff aside in anger before storming off. However, he stopped dead in his tracks when he felt his own wind energy resonating from the very staff Zeke was holding. Completely baffled, he asked how Zeke could possibly do that. Zeke just answered nonchalantly that he doesn't need to know it. He simply needs to use the tool. The two brothers bickered back and forth until Vanille reminded him that an umbrella was the original suggestion. Since Zeke couldn't find an umbrella, a long-handled staff was the next best thing. When Vanille protested that he knew 0 martial arts involving a staff, our boy boasted that he had already developed a perfect style for him, the Phantom Wind Umbrella art. Back in the present, Vanille is utilizing that exact style. Watching from the side, the Northern leader notices that Vanille's movements are significantly sharper than they ever were with his fan, and the technique matches his wind aura perfectly. At that moment, Alan asks nervously if Zeke really created a custom martial art from scratch. Zeke admits it with a shrug, leaving the boy shaken. Even his own leaders doesn't know who our hero truly is. Meanwhile, Lila approaches Zeke, staring at him for a moment before asking for the truth. When Zeke proudly confirms he is the creator, she accepts it with a look of pure awe. Not everyone is so easily convinced, though. Sandy scoffs, claiming it is impossible to simply create a new martial art. Edges starts to point out that normal logic doesn't apply to Zeke, but Sandy drops it, focusing instead on her irritation with Vanille. She rubs salt in his wounds, mocking him for being unable to win without poison and accusing him of being a liability with an unknown art. This sparks another heated argument between the Western and Northern students. Aegis tries to calm the group, reminding them that they must cooperate because the dangers inside the rift are unknown. While the Western students eventually fall silent, Sandy continues her tirade, unable to stomach working with someone who tried to kill Laika. She tries to recruit Lila into her grudge, but Lila has already moved on, focused solely on the success of the mission. Zeke can't help but think that Lila is truly something else. Disappointed by Lila's lack of interest, Sandy turns her frustration toward her cousin. Laika admits that she isn't as detached as Lila, but she selected this team based purely on the abilities necessary for the mission's success. Alan remarks that Laika seems much smarter than her cousin, which nearly sends Sandy into another fighting stance. Laika watches the internal friction with growing concern, but Zeke is already analyzing the group's tuning. A team consisting of people who don't trust each other is inherently risky and unbalanced. On the other hand, if they can learn to accept one another's true natures, they might actually become worthy comrades. They finally reach near the rift, which looks like a literal crack in space. Laika warns everyone to stay alert as they prepare to step into the unknown. Unlike the others, Zeke is genuinely hyped, but just as they step toward the rift, our hero senses a presence. Someone else has entered the domain along with them. When Lila asks if something is wrong, he brushes it off as nothing and urges the team to move forward into the rift.